Gather round, freaks. It's Thursday night, and you know what that means. We're going to ask the same question we ask each and every week. And that question is, hey, did you see this one?
Wow.
Hello and welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly podcast live on Twitch where we talk about a movie and themed during a month of a theme. And hello, and this month's theme is Close Encounters, I think is what we decided it's called. Abnormal Abductions.
Yeah, sure. I
Okay.
don't know if we ever actually discussed it, but sure. That's good. Abnormal abductions.
Abnormal abductions. Also, we have a very special guest, possibly the man I've known the longest on this planet, who he's abducted me many times. Please welcome to the show, Jacob Hiltz.
Oh my god.
Thank you for having me.
The grabber is here.
True, that's me. I will grab you.
It's gonna grab you.
Great introduction, Jason. You're a real professional.
I try. I've
put on your best shirt for this. Thank you.
This is the shirt I wore to work. I've been doing this. Sorry, go ahead.
Same.
I've been doing this podcasting thing now for 10 years. I hope that I have the hosting vibe down at this point. But I am one co-host of this show. My name is Jason R. Phillips, and I'm joined, as always, by Stephen Anthony Waters.
No, you still haven't guessed it yet, but maybe one day. I'm sure I've told you as well. I think you've just forgotten.
Stephen Roberts Waters.
Hello.
Wait, that's my middle name.
I usually start with my favorite quote from the movie, and my favorite quote from this movie is, "Maurice, get out of the room. Get out now." Love
That's
it.
Fantastic.
Great movie.
So I'm adding a new thing to the show. I have been recently asking people to guess to see from a little snippet, a little photo on Instagram and Facebook to see if they can guess the movie. And throughout the Grimoire Familiar Killers last month, I think I was going too ridiculous, like too zoomed into like a white part of
like
Michael
a single
Myers'
pixel
face.
of Batman Returns. You can see Michael Keaton's nose hairs through his bat mask.
I think people want to feel smart because this week, I had 5 responses. So Steve's been cooking up behind the old ones and twos. We have a sting for this. Check it out.
Congratulations! You have successfully guessed the correct answer, which is the answer you provided. Congratulations!
There we go.
Wow, good job.
Good job, Steve. So the winners this week were Noel Kotiff, Jessica Fisher, Aaron Hurdle, Kyle Heaney, and the Off Topic podcast. And I gave them the option to plug something or send a message. Aaron Hurdle wanted to say, also known as Big Wheeler Cat Peeler. Don't ever, for any reason, do anything to anyone for any reason ever, no matter what, no matter where, or who you were with, or where you were going, or where you've been, ever, for any reason whatsoever.
Is that like a song lyric? Was it surrounded by 2 musical notes?
I don't know. I think it's from something.
Well,
just go.
I feel like Wheeler the Cat Peeler is now going to be a D&D villain in my ongoing campaign.
Big Wheeler Cat Peeler is actually from a song. It's from an ICP interlude.
Also, I think we talked about this in our group chat with Aaron. He cheated for sure. So.
Oh my god.
And also, he just said "ack ack ack," and I gave it to him because I thought nobody was gonna.
That's fair. That's fair. But he's ruining the sanctity of this prestigious podcast.
The rest of these people did legit say Mars attacks. Jessica wanted to say help control the pet population, have your pets spayed or neutered. Noel will be on the first week of December for Striptease. They are they have been on the show before.
You mean Showgirls?
What did I say? Striptease.
Striptease.
That's
Jason,
the end of this podcast.
Yeah, you filthy animal.
Stripper month. All stripper movies. And also, Noel has a podcast about hockey called Stick Taps and Stitches. So look that up where you can find all.
I'm gonna get on that one. I think
I think that you,
the only other thing I know.
Jacob, would enjoy that. I don't know anything about hockey, despite us being friends for the better part of 30 years.
I think that would make you a good guest on that show.
Just to sit there like,
You're like, so what does offside mean?
Yeah,
dig in the traps.
Yeah.
I would watch you on a hockey podcast for sure.
Well, maybe I'll find my calling. Doug and Kadeem on the Off Topic podcast. They just wanted us to plug their podcast. It's on all major audio platforms, and they appreciate us doing the shout out. So you're welcome. And finally, Kyle Heaney is a friend of mine from Super Kicked Pro Wrestling, where I announce.
Is his name Kyle Heaney, the cat weenie?
No.
Is he also a cat based?
That would be great. No, but he is known as Ass. There was a bit of a story to that. He was somebody's assistant, and then the person who would come out with him would be like, everybody look at my ass. Isn't my ass so great, et cetera, et cetera. So he's just kind of known as Ass now, and it's very funny. He's trying to break out of that mold. We'll see what happens.
Ass mold.
His ass mold.
One
Once
day
an
I'll
ass
break
man,
free.
always an ass man.
Yeah.
Once an ass man, always an ass man. Truer words have never been spoken. So what we do now, that segment was great. I would like to give it an applause. We do have a segment that we do at the top of every show, and it's called A Brief. And it's called A Brief. Fucking, I gotta get
Called a
these in-
brief history, I think. No?
It is, yeah. But I don't have these like in order. I'll figure this out.
We can just rename them to 1, 2, 3, 4.
I will.
A brief history.
So it has become a tradition around these parts to allow the guest to go first. So Jacob, why don't you give us your brief history with the film Mars Attacks?
I'm a big Alien guy, always have been. I definitely rented this on DVD numerous times from Hiltz. Jason, we may have watched this as kids together as well.
Almost definitely.
Definitely, we watched it. I don't know. I just love this movie. I was excited when you asked me to jump on this show. This was my first choice. I'm glad no one else took it. But it's funny, like I hadn't watched it in a long time, so obviously there's so many people in this movie. But if you had asked me 2 weeks ago who's in this movie, I could have maybe named Jack Nicholson. But
Twice. You're like, I think he's in it twice, right?
yeah, he has two great roles in the movie. But yeah, I've watched it twice this week just to make sure I took it all in, and just as good as it was back then. But now I know who all these people are because I'm not 12 anymore.
Fantastic. It's true. That's the thing about it. Like the people like Annette Bening, I wouldn't have known who that was as a kid.
No. And Jack Black too.
And Jack Black, yeah. And
Yeah.
that one kid, the kid, Richie or whatever, who like was in like
Lucas
a whole
Haas.
bunch of stuff for like 8 minutes in the late 90s.
Yeah.
He's still in stuff to this day. Sometimes, every once in a while, he'll pop up. You're like, Lucas Haas, he's back. He got back from Mars.
in Pog form.
Yeah.
Great. Steve, why don't you hit us with your brief history next?
Well, I was excited as heck for this movie when I was a kid. This movie came out, I believe, a year after Independence Day, which was the hot shit of the late 90s. And, I used to love that movie as well. I've kind of grown to not really enjoy it that much anymore. I think I watched it way too much as a kid, and now I can see all of its like glaringly obvious like pandering and the seams show. And I prefer this, to be honest, over Independence Day any day. But I was so excited for it, and I was not let down at all. And I remember I had this came out during the summer in which I had moved from city to city, and it was right near the end of primary school. So I was already very awkward and anxious as a child, and I now had to make all new friends at school, and I really was not great at that. So the first couple of weeks were rough, and by the end of the year, people were starting to get to know me a little bit more. So I had a couple of friends, but Mars Attacks came out, and I was killing it with the Martian impression, and people loved me after that. So it really kind of broke that social ice for me as a child. So I'm appreciative of this movie, not just as a movie, but also making my life a little bit easier. but yeah, I also love alien movies. And again, this coming off the coattails of Independence Day, it did get a lot of slack for being a parody of Independence Day, which it's not. But I loved it as a kid. It hasn't aged greatly, but it hasn't aged all that poorly either. There are things that you can't get around, but I still enjoy it. It's a fun watch. The performances are great, and I'm sure we'll talk about all of that stuff in the body of the episode.
Well, that's great because I'm with you guys both. I hadn't seen it in so long that I forgot like the progress. Like have flashes of parts in my head. Like Jacob was saying, I watched this movie as a kid probably 30 times. It was one of those ones we like rent at sleepovers if there was nothing new, or I think it was on the Space Channel for like a chunk of time as well. Like
it was on TV a lot. This one was on a lot,
and it's pretty like we'll get into it when we talk about the movie itself, but it's pretty inoffensive on first glance. But when you're actually analyzing the movie, it's a body horror movie. And Jacob, you remember birthday parties where you guys would put on horror movies and I'd just go into your bedroom and just
do it. Yeah.
Be like under the covers, like scared. Masturbating. Nope.
Come on. No.
I'm surprised I was able to handle this movie as a kid because especially where like Pierce Brosnan's parts are all like out and that kind of stuff. Like
Pierce Brosnan. Yeah. There's a lot of really gross shit in this movie, but as a kid, I thought it was all hilarious. And you know what? A lot of the body horror in this movie still is very hilarious.
It's pretty funny, even if it looks...
I was into like actual horror movies back then, so
this would have been nothing.
Didn't bother me at all, yeah.
I've told this story on the show a few times, Jacob, but I just want to mention it again. But the time that you guys watched Darkman at your birthday, and Darkman is probably...
that one's a little rough, yeah.
But now it's probably comically bad. Like it's the horror is minimal comparatively to like something like a modern horror film.
I just rewatched it. It's still pretty gruesome, man.
Really?
Sam Raimi knows how to put some real nasty stuff in his movies where you're like, ugh.
But I did, of course, go in Jacob's room and play with the wrestling figures.
Hell yeah.
And you guys used to watch all the fucking Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And
Candyman was another one.
I remember Paul
Candyman
Persala.
is actually scary though.
You guys watch. I remember you guys talking about Candyman after a sleepover, and me being like, "I'll never see that movie."
Yeah, we watched it at his parents had a bed and breakfast that was built on an old nun graveyard, and their graves were outside his bedroom window.
Of the nuns?
Yeah. It was,
my god!
Bed and breakfast, and it was a huge old building, and yeah, we'll have to do that movie because I got stories about that one. But
yeah, I gotta say, out of like the many different options we have for ghosts, nun ghosts are probably one of the scariest.
Yeah, that's pretty,
for sure.
Pretty terrifying. But that said, I watched it a bunch as a kid, but couldn't remember it to the point that I thought that the Randy Quaid stuff from Independence Day was in this movie.
I mean, to be fair, the Randy Quaid stuff in Independence Day feels like it should be in this movie.
Should be in this movie, yeah. Randy Quaid is the character out of the Mars Attacks universe, so...
Yeah.
So what do we say? We get into the body of the episode and we just fucking talk about this thing.
Sounds good.
Here we go.
Ho, 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 ho! Everybody back up, because here comes the body of the episode.
Sexy.
So, this is the body of the episode. I am also going to introduce. This is kind of weird because, so I'll let the cat out of the bag. Basically, I want to talk about the director sort of in a segment form during the show from now on. But Tim Burton is such a ridiculous director that I'm afraid we're going to just talk about him forever. So I'm going to play the sting. And let's just try to just sort of...
We should have played the director sting and then talked about him and then done the body.
And then done the
body. You guys want to start all over?
Yeah, let's start from... Hello and welcome. But okay, let's see. I'm going to have to put these in order. Here we go.
All right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
God damn it. It's the best thing you've ever made.
Took me about 15 seconds of What should I do? What if he's just surly and swears?
Let's shoot
Okay.
this piece of
Tim Burton, director Tim Burton, as we all know, started as an animator for Disney. The first movie of which he worked on was The Fox and the Hound. And he got,
Definitely knew that.
sorry?
I definitely knew that.
And he got bored, but he also was like a pitchman in the office and stuff, right? I don't know Tim Burton's story like to a T, but there was a time in my life where I was really into the idea of becoming an animator. So I did learn a lot about him when I was younger, particularly in high school. When I first saw this movie, I knew who Tim Burton was and I knew that he had made movies, but I wasn't, like well versed on everything that he had made. But it was also when I just first started noticing sort of like what it means to be an auteur in your filmmaking and recognizing visual cues and musical stings and editing style and all of that stuff to kind of have a filmmaker's DNA sort of visually and auditorily represented on screen. And I remember at the time being like, this movie feels like a bunch of stuff that I like. And under a microscope later on, you're like, oh, it's because I like the Batman movies and I like Edward Scissorhands and I like Beetlejuice and
inversely,
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
this movie didn't feel like a Tim Burton movie when I was a kid, but watching it yesterday, very much you could see it now because you know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a kid, I thought Toys, the Robin Williams movie, I thought that was a Tim Burton movie because it stylistically looks like they tried to make a Tim Burton style movie.
Yeah, it just looks like some bullshit that Tim Burton would be like, all right, let's make a giant swan bed.
But this movie almost feels like he's like moving away from the giant monolithic like set pieces that like Gotham City and Edward Scissorhands have. But what I noticed in this one specifically is the space when they're on the spacecraft, there are those giant monolithic things, and there's also like those brains in a jar when they go into that room where they do all the science shit on.
Yeah,
that
I
felt
was
like it. And also what's Jack Nicholson's other character's name? It's not Ace, it's like Abe or something. Art. Yeah. Art's whole casino room felt very Tim Burton.
Yeah, I mean, so Tim Burton's whole thing is that he has these extremes, right? He has like the bright side of Burton and the dark side of Burton, and he plays around in both in his movies, right? So if you were to take something like Edward Scissorhands, it's similar, where all of the suburban household life versus the cottage at the top or the mansion at the top of the hill. One of them is The Nightmare Before Christmas, and the other one is Willy Wonka, or this, where everything is like super colorful and overblown and is very much designed to look like it's shot on studio lots and with painted backdrops. There's an argument to be made this movie would maybe be better if it was in black and white because it so much is meant to resemble a movie from the B movies of the 50s, like Plan 9, like an Ed Wood movie, which is another movie that Tim Burton made.
I think you're right. I think in black and white, it would hold up better now. The CGI wouldn't look so out of place. And it doesn't, like, I found that it held up better than a lot of movies from this era just because the movie is so wacky. But that's a really good point. Like, if this movie was fully in black and white, you'd have the, like, if it was shot in color, but then just converted to black and white, I think that could be an interesting cut.
I think if it was a black and white, you'd be missing a detail that I noticed when they disintegrate people. Sometimes the skeletons are red and sometimes they're green.
That's true.
Which is just a weird, fun thing, but I'm wondering.
Weird. Yeah.
Well, it's like the laser beams that come out of the guns are red and green as well, right?
Yeah.
I had a small theory about that was just to minimalize the body horror of just these horrible charred skeletons all over the place.
Yeah, they were all red, and they're like, this is too spooky. Let's make a couple of them green. Yeah.
Or just like straight up black, like charred. Is what they
like the Batman when he electrocutes the guy. It's a hot town tonight or whatever.
Yeah. Speaking of Batman, just before we move on from Tim Burton, because honestly we could just do a podcast. If you're not well versed, Tim Burton has done, and this isn't everything, but namely,
I could name them if you'd like.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure,
off the top of my head,
Mars Attacks, Sleepy Hollow, Planet of the Apes, the remake from 2001, Big Fish, the remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Corpse Bride, the Sweeney Todd movie, Alice in Wonderland. He invented
Or like Alice in Blunderland.
more like Dark Shadows is a shitty movie.
I like that movie.
And most recently, he directed the Wednesday television show. And he, of course, also directed Nightmare Before Christmas. Or did he just produce
No.
it?
No.
No. Sorry, Steve. I knew
Henry
that.
Selick directed that movie.
Yeah.
It was his brain baby. Like the puppets were based on his sketches, and he was a producer on it. But he had very little to do with the actual production of the movie.
Okay.
But I think the story is that like Henry Selick would be like, please, Tim, just like go away and come back and look at stuff every once in a while and just say if you like it or not. And Tim Burton was like, all right. But Tim Burton also would like fight vehemently for that movie against the studios. So like the studios, for example, were trying to give Jack Skellington big kind eyes. They're like, it's too scary, we have to give him big kind eyes, and Tim Burton would fight them for hours. And the story is that like it got so heated that he like kicked a garbage can like through a window or some shit. He's like, he has to have spooky eyes.
Like,
God damn it.
How are we going to invent a whole generation of goth kids if this movie isn't
Yeah.
kind of scary? I love
Tim Burton
that
is definitely
movie.
an interesting dude, and like you know, he goes through these waves of like people loving him and hating him, sort of like M. Night Shyamalan, except his sort of I don't know what you would call it, like a spectrograph goes a little bit more rigidly, where you know people either love the thing that he made or hate it, and he's on a bit of a downtick, and he has been for a while. I would say Dark Shadows, you know, a lot of people didn't like it, but me watching it, I remember feeling like this is a little bit more of like he returned to school for a bit and was like, I'm just gonna make something kind of goofy and weird and hope that people like it. And I kind of enjoyed it.
I feel like people are on an uptick with him because Wednesday did so well, and Wednesday.
But I don't think he directed that show. I think he was just the showrunner.
It says director.
He might have directed an episode or like one episode or something, right?
Yeah, that could be it.
But I don't know for sure. So
I'm gonna
right.
double check very quickly.
No, I'm frozen.
He did 8 episodes. How many episodes are there on Wednesday? 8.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, you're a little bit frozen. You're a little frozen. If you want to just leave and come back. Now we can go back into the body of the episode. And luckily, Jacob, we have a short sting for the body, so we don't have to start the podcast over.
The body of the episode.
Pretty good, right?
That was really good. These stings are 10 out of 10.
Cool. So, in the body of the episode, typically we do kind of just go all over the place. And if we get mixed up or lost or run out of something to say about a particular topic, honestly, Steve will never run out of things to say about a topic, nor will I. I'll just refer to my notes, and I kind of keep track of the whole movie. That's how I take notes for the movie. So, what's happening with Steve here? This is not great because want to know if we can move forward. It's dead air. This is the dead air portion of the show where
Is there a sting for that?
Let me see if I have a sting for
We're
that.
in dead air.
Dead air. Dead air. No. So, okay. Let's just start from the beginning of the movie. So the movie opens with some old rednecks in the home. They're hanging out. Yep, exactly.
This is one of my favorite scenes to start a movie ever, just burning cows.
Yeah, they're in their home, and the guy runs in and says, I smell barbecue. And they go outside to like see what's going on, and it's a herd of CGI cows that are on fire, running down the pathway, which I thought was a great scene. I'm gonna try removing him. Nope, don't. Oh, yeah, okay, there he goes.
I'm still here.
I like how it's like report to Zoom. I'm just gonna report Steve.
Them. Report him.
How dare you? And that's
we were talking earlier about how this movie has aged well, but there's parts of it that haven't. But I like in the first 5 minutes, I mean the first scene of the movie, there's like the Filipino New Year's joke So you got your racism, someone smoking a cigarette inside, and then of course the Twin Towers
The
just
Twin
chilling.
Towers.
Yep.
This up until the aliens land, this movie does have like the date at the bottom of the screen, but it doesn't say the year. Do you have any based on, I guess it's too early to tell here because it's just a farmhouse, but do you have any theories on like what year this movie's supposed to be?
So yes, I'm a big car guy, and there's no cars newer than 1997. So 1997. I think it's just supposed to be contemporary.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Because it looks like the 60s or the early 70s.
Yeah.
But the boxer, his last fight was in like 71.
But that checks out.
Yeah, he looks like he's in his like early to mid 60s.
Yeah, so it's somewhere between, I think it's set in 1996. It just looks that way.
Look at the cars, man. Look at the cars.
Look to the cars.
Look to the cars.
The cars will guide your way. Jim Brown, yeah, he's
Jim
also
Brown.
he's also in a ton of stuff, and
One of the greatest NFL players of all time as well.
yeah, he needs a decent actor for, because a lot of like sports doesn't always translate to acting in a great way.
No.
But every once in a while you get a gem. Him, Mike Tyson. Just kidding.
Mike Tyson in The Hangover.
Yep.
The pinnacle of sports people acting. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was Ving
Michael
Rhames for
Jordan.
a second, but I very quickly was like, that's not Ving Rhames, so
No.
that's on me.
They have a similar build, especially at this time period. Now he looks like Jabba the Hutt. But,
Ving
you know,
Rhames it became a huge fat guy.
He's not a huge fat guy. He's just kind of like gotten thicker. Like everything is just thicker.
That's what happens when you. I know from experience that if you put on a bunch of muscle mass and then just stop working out, you get fat over the muscle, so you look.
He's also old. Like he's allowed to.
That's
get him. And he doesn't look bad. He just doesn't look the same as he did in Dawn of the Dead.
Sorry,
in
Ving
2001.
Rhames. I take it all back.
We love you, Ving.
But that said, Pam Grier, this is like all of the movies that we've done with her in it, that she's the most normal. But I'm sitting there going like,
have we done more than one?
She's in a couple of the movies that we did. She was in an escape movie.
Escape from LA. Yeah, she plays
I thought she was in something
mildly
else.
problematic character. I think we were talking about doing a Tarantino month.
Right.
But
that said,
she's basically, for those who don't know, is like one of the most famous blaxploitation actors that ever lived. And she was like the goddess of that type of cinema in the era of which it was the largest, like the 70s, like mid to late 70s. I've always had a massive crush on her. I remember being so excited playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and hearing her being one of the DJs. It's like, oh my god, she's a DJ in the game. This is sick. And she's not playing just a nameless DJ with Pam Grier's voice. She's playing Pam Grier as the DJ. She's like, this is Pam Grier, and you're listening to, I think it was like The Groove or something, or like, I can't remember. The Lowdown, I think it was called The Lowdown because it was like a Motown station.
I also don't buy that, like, Pam Grier is such a beautiful woman that she would just be like a Washington bus driver or New York or
but I
whatever,
mean,
Washington,
it's a movie.
DC.
But she's also like aged in this movie. She's like of the age where, like in reality, maybe she was not a bus driver, and then her looks started to slide a bit, and then she had some kids that she had to raise, and like that's what you have to do. You gotta get a job, and a bus driver is a good, steady, unionized position.
That's a good point.
That will make sure that she has work stability for the rest of her life.
Because she was like a boxer's wife, so she was probably
living it up for a while.
Some sort of maybe ring girl or bartender in Vegas. Something.
Or much more than that, Jason.
She was probably a boxer,
ring girl or a waitress.
She
Good
fought
Lord.
men.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did women do in the 70s in Vegas?
They were either played Foxy Brown or Jackie Brown.
Maybe she's playing herself under a pseudonym.
Yeah,
and that's the story.
It is one of the tragedies of this movie is we don't get more of her, but that's also just like the formula of this movie.
And we don't get more of Danny DeVito either.
Yeah, credited as rude gambler. It ain't
Literally-
unusual.
6 lines in the movie.
The only thing worse than this Danny DeVito was Danny DeVito in Last Action Hero, where he voices a cat that has half the lines that Rude Gambler has.
But both of these examples are just Danny DeVito being a good friend, because Danny DeVito and Tim Burton are good friends. Danny DeVito has been in so many Tim Burton movies. Just think about it for 5 seconds and you're like, oh yeah, he's in almost all of them.
At least a Batman. There's 2 Batman villains in this movie, which is great. We've got the Penguin and the Joker.
I believe I learned this from a podcast that I listened to called Blank Check, where the way that, Dumbo, the movie that came out that nobody saw, Danny DeVito is in that movie, and he once again plays a ringleader. He's the Dumbo ringleader. And I think that when Danny DeVito learned that, or it was either Danny DeVito called Tim Burton or Tim Burton called Danny DeVito, but it was like, he called him up and was like, Danny, we got to finish our Top Hat trilogy, because it's like the 3rd movie that Danny DeVito will be wearing a big giant top hat in. And they did it. They completed the Top Hat trilogy. So Danny DeVito has officially played a man in a big, tall, like almost half his body height top hat.
What's the other one besides
3 times.
Penguin?
Big Fish.
Big Fish. Okay.
Yeah. Where he plays like the ringleader of a freak show or whatever.
He plays the ringleader of a freak show in all 3 of those movies, if we're being honest.
That's true, yeah. Look, it's an elephant that can fly with his ears. It's Siamese twins.
Look,
Ugh.
I'll bite your nose off.
I play this city like a harp from hell.
Okay, so I wanted to also talk about... So, Jacob, I have a long history on this show of hating the opening credits for movies, especially during, like, the 1980s, where it's just, like...
Love this one.
Credits.
Mhm.
This one is fantastic.
I had that in my notes that this was I missed that the opening credits that we used to get in the 80s and 90s.
It's
Yeah.
in the 80s they were usually boring. In the 90s is when they were like, we need to fill up this space to keep the people
I hate these
engaged.
grand sweeping statements that you make, Jason. They're good every era. They just have bad ones, and we just happen to do a lot of bad ones on this show.
Okay. You're probably right, Steve. At least you're being nice.
Can I remind you of Chucky 2?
Yeah.
Can I remind you of Chucky 3?
You have bias, though. Your favorite fucking movies are the Chucky movies.
But Tim Burton has always had a good
That's
credit intro. He's one of the guys who really embraces it, and he still kind of does it, right? He loves a good conveyor belt opening. You could even say that the Batman Returns opening is a conveyor belt opening, because once they dump the carriage into the sewers, it's all sort of profile shots of things going sideways and moving across the camera. And it's just this, he likes to give a sense of something is coming and going to happen. It's on the way, and you're going to watch a movie soon. You just have to travel along with this musical beat while you see all these names for a little while. And I hope this is exciting to you. And it almost always is. The Batman Returns one is great.
it's out of control. It's so good. I don't remember the original Batman opening.
I can't either. I don't know if it's as sort of methodical as the second one, but this one is. This one reminds me a lot of the Batman Returns one,
Mhm.
and even the Willy Wonka one, which I would say is not as good as the original Willy Wonka opening, where it's like beautiful, delicious looking candy, whereas the Tim Burton one is like, ugh, shit bars getting wrapped in gray, sad looking saran wrap. But he kind of embraces it. I haven't seen his most recent movie, so I don't know if he's still doing it. I haven't seen Big Eyes. I haven't seen Dumbo. I did see Dark Shadows, which has a pretty good one. It's not as like memorable as these. But yeah, I think also Danny Elfman should also be given just as much credit as Tim Burton for these openings, because he always makes sort of a marching, operatic, exciting piece of music to accompany it, right?
Slightly different version of the Simpsons theme music.
Yeah, exactly. And he loves a good bongo, you ever
Yeah.
know? Like,
If
they always pop in.
If you've ever listened to Oingo Boingo, Danny Elfman's band,
Boingo, yeah.
there's bongos all over that. Although his lyrics in Oingo Boingo are a little bit suspect. If you go back, there's a lot of like singing about liking little girls. I hope that he just means in the context of like they're physically little but of age.
No good context for that. You're not.
Yeah. Danny Elfman is a weirdo, but
He
I don't
seems
think
like a
he's ever
weirdo.
he's never been accused of
No.
anything. He never
Till
got
this
me
show.
too'd or anything. Yeah.
This is
Till this show, yeah, Jason. What are you saying?
I'm making a wild accusation
Yeah.
about Danny.
Point on the
Elfman.
Mars Attacks poster behind you where Danny Elfman touched you. He touched you in your brain.
Yeah, he touched my brain. He made me smarter.
Oh God.
Yeah. But Danny Elfman, he's kind of, extremely iconic. I found that his score for this was a little bit more hinged, if you will. It was a little bit more like normal movie score. I don't know if that was he was trying something new.
I don't know if I agree, but continue. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying that I was trying to listen for like the Danny Elfman of it all throughout the thing. And I was just like, this didn't excite me. There was one part though where he had like a score going over like military drums, like those kind of stings. And I was going like, how does the human brain just come up with that abstract out of nowhere? And how do you go from being like in a rock band in the 80s to deciding that I'm going to do scores for movies and have so many iconic scores? I find that Danny Elfman as a musician is fascinating, regardless of his...
I definitely agree.
But all I'm saying is this movie didn't wow me the way that something like a Batman.
It also might be a case of the fact that you haven't watched this as many times as you've watched Batman, and
True.
Obviously the Batman score is iconic, particularly the Batman theme. But like if you were to try and hum the Catwoman theme right now from his score, you probably wouldn't be able to do it.
Ding ding, it's Catwoman. Ding ding ding.
Exactly. You're like na 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 Catwoman. But for some reason the intro music of this, where all of the ships are coming out of Mars and making their way towards Earth, when we decided to do this, the back of my head I was like, and I knew the music immediately. And it's not like I listened to the soundtrack often. It was just kind of burned into my mind from the few times I've watched it over my life. This isn't a movie that I go back and rewatch constantly like I do with a lot of other movies in my life.
When was the last time you watched it for this show?
Probably actually I watched it during COVID. And then before that it was many years. Yeah. Many years.
What about you, Jacob? You said you hadn't seen it.
Probably. I couldn't, honestly. I know I loved the movie, but I don't remember.
It was the
Definitely
same.
Many years, but I was like, oh yeah, I remember why I love this. But when I watched it, I couldn't tell you.
It was a weird thing where my partner, we were talking about aliens, and they were like, my dad for some reason loves the movie Mars Attacks, and I was like, let's watch it. Let's watch it right now. I also love it.
I think what I like about it that I don't think you see as much anymore is like just the overall campiness. Like
where everybody involved is aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's gone. I think. I mean, you get the odd gem nowadays, but
yeah.
The early Tim Burton stuff especially has that, like, I don't want to say self-awareness, but like,
I would say it's absolutely self-aware.
But you've got people that are turning out realistic and good performances, but then you've also got the moments that are just some journeyman actor. The scene where they're like, "Sir, you wanted an analysis on the gum," and he's like, "Yes, what is it?" And he's like, "It's NO2," and he's like, "Nitrogen." And then he like turns to the camera and he's like, "That's how they could breathe."
Yeah.
You're like, okay, thank you, general exposition.
And also Pierce Brosnan's like whole shtick is
his whole thing is
very
great. Yeah,
campy.
he knows
fun.
what he's doing. Yeah, he's like constantly like just looking past the camera like that. Like he's always got his pipe and he knows, right? Everybody knows. And Tim Burton either like hammered it down, like, listen, guys, we're making a shitty movie from the 50s, but it's going to be good. And if anybody didn't get it, it was like you can't really even tell. Sorry, go ahead. I
was just going to say, we should mention that, like your background is showing, it is literally based off of
a card game.
It's not even a game. It's just trading
cards.
It's
just trading cards
from
yeah.
the 60s.
It's like Garbage Pail Kids almost kind of thing, or like those Marvel cards that didn't have any sort of statistics or anything like Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon. It was just like pictures that you would collect.
And I don't even know enough about it, but I'm wondering if some of the
They credit it in the credits.
Well, I'm wondering if some of the like scenes that you see in the movie are right from the cards.
A
They
few-
depict?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, absolutely.
Do they
Tim
depict?
intentionally use the like visual cues or the visuals from the cards for certain scenes and the aliens especially.
Yeah, I
Definitely
believe
aliens,
the
yeah.
the opening sting before the the credit crawl is like all the cows on fire. Like that is actually one of the cards where he's like, we gotta have a scene where he like lifts up a card to his cinematographer and his storyboard artist. Like, we gotta make this into a
I imagine
scene.
also where
bunch of cows on fire.
they're taking a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower that's like half on fire. I imagine that's also
I don't know for sure, but that would be a very good call. Yeah.
I know Jason says that a movie's not a movie until it has a high-speed chase and an explosion. I don't think it's a movie unless it's based on a card game.
A movie's
Like,
not
there's
a
only-
movie unless there was
only-
trading cards in the
There's
1960s.
only one movie I can watch, and it's this one. Maybe Pokemon. I don't know.
The Pokemon
That's
movie
my-
from
that's my criteria.
2000.
That no one
Right.
has.
That's a pretty good criteria. It might be better than my a film has no high speed chases or explosions.
Yeah.
This has both. So
I think there's probably tons of other things that have trading cards. I don't know if they're based on the trading cards, but yeah.
I think there is a Yu-Gi-Oh animated like feature film.
Yu-Gi-Oh! It's time to duel.
Duel. Even though I didn't really watch that show. Yeah, we like this movie literally just opens up with Jack Nicholson and you get Jack Nicholson and Pierce Brosnan like right away, and just hamming it up, trying to decide what to do about this imminent alien invasion.
The aliens invaded on my birthday.
May the 10th.
It's one of those things.
May the
May 10th is the first day where like the newspapers start dropping, and then May 11th is when they like meet them. When they shoot the ambassador, and it's one of those things where you're like, that's my birthday, and then you're like, oh, good God.
I like that they just got it over with right away. The aliens just come. There's no 20-minute build up. Oh, what's going on? It's like, no, there's aliens
They're
immediately.
here, yeah. It cuts to the president being like,
Alien
we need
movies are
to,
coming.
yeah. I also love that like Pierce Brosnan is saying all this stuff about the aliens, and he's like, well, the fact that they're able to travel the way they are, I mean, it suggests higher intelligence, which means enlightenment, which means that they are inevitably a peaceful people. And you're just like, this is some shit that would be in a B movie from like a Plan 9 style thing, where it's like they're just saying stuff without backing it up, and it's like, just let the audience hear this guy out, and we're all kind of agreeing with the general, whatever his name is, General Nucleus. He's a wants to blow them up immediately, right?
I do like that battle between the general and Pierce Brosnan, the kind of liberal elite douchebag, and then the kind of hardcore Republican military guy.
Mhm.
I did like that.
The two extremes, and then you have
Yeah,
Martin
yeah.
Short just like in between, being like, well, what's good for publicity? Just being the worm,
General
Guys,
Decker.
20 minutes in, he dies too.
Yeah.
By Rod Steiger.
Rod
And
Steiger, yeah.
I recognize him from just like stuff. He's just been in
Fact,
a million
He's an
things.
Oscar Award winner for best actor.
Doesn't he play Elaine's dad on Seinfeld,
Oh, maybe.
or is that a different actor?
I think it's somebody different because he's not listed here.
Yeah, but yeah, he won.
Oh no, yeah, that's
in the
the guy
heat of-
from Reservoir Dogs. Sorry, go ahead.
Best actor for In the Heat of the Night. They had
Okay.
some good old school actors in here as well.
I
He
had
was acting consistently his whole fucking life.
yeah, he worked until 2002 and was in like 149
He was in, like,
things.
Like he was
That's
in
like
like
Samuel L.
4
Jackson
things a year
numbers.
for his whole life. Yeah.
Something that I picked up on while I was watching this that I thought as a kid, I thought differently about as a kid was Michael J. Fox's character as a kid. I thought he was like a villain. Like I thought he was a villainous character.
Well, yeah, he is played sort of villainously, and yeah, go ahead.
That said, in this, I think him and Sarah Jessica Parker were just wrong for each other, and it was more about another, like kind of like the general and the doctor. It was just like two different styles of news, and they were just they never really play Michael J. Fox as like this evil character. But my point is that as a kid, I was duped into thinking that he was like this bad guy, but really he
No,
was just
I get that too.
serious.
Well, that's just like your undeveloped brain as a child being like, what are the signals that the movie is giving me? And that is the signal you're getting as a kid, right? It's like he's complaining and being rude and not waving at her, and it's like, oh, so he's bad. But it's not that he's bad, it's that he's insecure and upset, and he's kind of like a shitty guy, right? Where he, instead of being happy for his wife or his girlfriend, and that her career is like flourishing and doing so well, he's only concerned about his career, and he's like, why the fuck are they talking to you? You're a fucking idiot. And she kind of is, to be fair. Like, she is not, she has to have all of her questions on a cue card, and she reads them like somebody reciting, bong thoughts from their like dream journal or whatever. And it's, you kind of get why he's frustrated as an adult, but at the same time you're also like, chill, dude. Just like, you can have those feelings, just work through them without trying to detriment your relationship and be an asshole.
I want to start a new podcast called Bong Thoughts from My Dream Journal. And that's just what it is. You just get stoned and then later you read it.
But also, like, again, to the sort of the theme of the movie is that every single character is cartoonish, right? Like, everybody is overblown in what they're meant to be in the story. Is like, we're not gonna play it small here. Everybody's gonna be maxed out on their their bars in terms of like an RPG. And even like if a character is sort of low key, then we're gonna max them out in another way, right? So Jim Brown, he's sort of like a loving father and somebody who fucked his marriage up and really wants to fix it, and you can understand who he is. And he cares extremely for his family, but he also is like worried about his career, and he's trying to figure out ways to help his family by asking his boss for a raise. But then you look at him physically and he's dressed like fucking King Tut. Like, okay,
That's
so
true.
he's gonna be the most normal character, but he's also gonna be dressed like a thing that probably never actually existed in real life.
Speaking of that, though, this isn't my own thought. Red Letter Media did a pretty good deep dive on this recently, and they pointed out that Christina Applegate is in this movie. She must have a whole part that's cut because she has no lines.
I don't remember her.
She's
assume
Jack
that
Black's girlfriend who's getting like railed later.
Yeah, she, for the majority, she gets one full face shot of like her looking at the camera, and it's when she dies. And the rest of the movie, she's in profile and she's just saying stuff to the point you don't even realize it's Christina Applegate. And when I saw the movie as a kid, I didn't know who Christina Applegate was at all.
She was still then on Married with Children at this point, or just coming off of it.
I didn't watch. The only sitcoms I watched were Family Matters and Boy Meets World when I was a kid. I didn't watch anything else.
Great picks, honestly.
Anyway, yeah. It's great though. Like that's one of the beauties of the movie, right? Is like you've got the normal characters, but they have some other thing that is overblown about them, right? So Lukas Haas's character, he works at a donut shop that it looks like it was drawn to be a joke, right? Like it's supposed to be a comic strip version of a donut shop. Even later when it's getting blown up, a bunch of cops are running out of it. You're like, what the hell? Why aren't they helping in the alien invasion? It's like, no, they had to stop for donuts. And then Lucas's character himself he's very normal, but then his home life is overblown, right? Like his characters are like Looney Tunes characters, where they're later on loading shotguns. Like it's just like they've just been sitting there loading a bunch of guns the whole time. I'll tell you what, they're not getting a TV.
They're not getting my TV. And I was like, what a weird fucking transition to a scene.
I watched a couple of the special features, and it doesn't really go huge into the making of, but I would love if they had some sort of behind the scene, like a really like a deep dive on how everything was, like what the decisions were, because it seems manic. The movie seems manic, like it was made by a crazy person. But
I mean, was it not?
I like it.
The chaos of the like action sequences are so, like, you could watch this movie 10 times and catch something new in those action sequences, because they're so manic, they're so crazy, and those are my favorite parts, honestly.
Yeah, it's also like the beginning of the beginning of the end for Tim Burton when it came to stop frame animation, right? Like it's one of the most heartbreaking things you learn about this movie is that the initial plan was that all of the aliens were going to be stop frame animation, and they did the tests, and they look good, but they realized it was going to take way too long and it was going to cost so much money. And then they did some animation tests, and at the end of the day, the consensus was that it was funny. Like they're like, it looks funny, like it looks fucking funny. So we're gonna make it sort of look like stop frame, but it's gonna be 3D animated.
I will
And
say, if they had used whatever effect they used when they have the alien, the first time you see an alien on the TV, it's got a really weird.
it's in black and white. Maybe that's why it looks.
Maybe that's why it looks so good.
Yeah.
I mean, the aliens themselves, I think, are a highlight of the CGI in this movie. The faces hold up. It's when you get down to like the ships landing, a bunch of ships in space all together, their suits, and the style they went with the guns. They look very Nerf. I get that they were going for like 50s laser beams, but that, again, you see those in black and white in the 1950s. You don't see them in color unless they're like put into color. Like I get
They look like water
style.
guns.
Yeah,
but it's fun.
It's
kind
fun.
of like it.
I get it. And it's a kids movie for all intents and purposes. Maybe not a kids movie, but it's, for 13-year-olds who are kids, right?
That's when I watched it. Yeah,
I think we watched in 1996. We were 11,
came out in '97.
and we were 12. So yeah, you're right. We wouldn't have
I
gotten
was
it.
younger. I'm a younger baby.
That's the younger baby sting.
Yeah. Younger baby, baby.
Younger babies, they're younger than we are.
So I guess my story is incorrect then. Mars Attacks would have already been out when I moved. So it would have been the year of previous to that.
Started again.
Wow, I misremembered my own history. So I would have been coming into the school already being like, the people have been like, hi, what's your name? And I've been like, maybe that's why they didn't talk to me for half a year.
They were a fucking weirdo instead of like your new best friend. That's great.
Maybe that's why I sat at that table with all the other weird kids.
So two other people I forgot were in this movie, Natalie Portman and Glenn Close. Glenn Close, I sort of remember. I've completely forgot Natalie Portman was Taffy or whatever her name is. And she's very much a combination of her character from The Professional and her character from a movie she's not in. She reminds me a lot of Lydia from Beetlejuice, Winona Ryder's character.
So she's a combination of her as a child and another child.
Yes. I just found that her attitude and shots of her bedroom, she's got that like black thing on her bed that she's always like
She's just like an annoyed teenager.
like a precocious teenager. But
Only almost normal person in the whole movie.
she is. She's the kind of like the audience insert to the whole thing.
I think she's the Tim Burton insert. I honestly
yeah.
think that anytime someone's like sitting back and something horrible is happening and their reaction is, oh wow, look at that. That's Tim Burton putting himself into the situation, because either that or that's what he just thinks all teenagers are like. Because at any time there's a teenager in a movie, that's sort of their kind of baseline is uninterested, but at least they're commenting on what's going on. There's a moment in the movie where she says, yeah, maybe to them doves mean war. And then everybody takes her seriously and they're like, holy shit, yeah, you might be right. And then later they have all the signs being like, no clapping, no cheering, no doves. And then shit goes down a second time. And it's just like an ADR line while the fight is happening. It doesn't even cut to her. And you just hear, oh, maybe it wasn't the doves.
I didn't notice that.
Like this deadpan delivery. Like, maybe it wasn't the doves.
Whoops, I wrote Ving Rhames. Whoops.
Yeah. Jing Rames. Jing brings.
At this point, we're just sort of getting the Byron and Lois or Louise finding about their relationship.
Who are these people?
Byron is
Joe
Brown.
Okay, yeah, Pam Grier. Yeah, you don't get a lot, but you know that the kids have been missing for 2 days, which that's concerning. Even if like a person that I don't live with or gave birth to went missing for 2 days, I'd be pretty concerned
They've
about
just
it.
been in an arcade for 2 days. Yeah.
It's Ray J too. Did you know that?
Oh, really? No.
Yeah. So Ray J is their oldest kid.
I was wondering if those kids went on to be people.
The younger brother, no, but yeah, that's
like Ray J from like Raycons,
sex tape.
the sex tape, and also my headphones.
Yeah, exactly.
They're great headphones, Ray J. You did a good job nailing Kim Kardashian on screen and also putting other things.
One degree of separation from that to this movie.
Do you think that he? Never mind.
Welcome to Hey, did you see that one?
It's his penis.
That's a porner version of it.
Jack Nicholson playing his second role. He's Art. His wife is Annette Bening, right? That's who she is.
Yeah, and she's like a hippie, I guess. She's an alcoholic, which I was like, oh, I relate to this.
She's she's kind of a complex character, as it turns out, because first you just think that she's like trying not to gamble and drink, but then when the aliens are actually landing, we find out that she's a hippie, and then from then on, when we see her, she's like in that like pool room, which also is very Tim Burton, like meditating. She's got crystals, and she kind of is. She's fighting between, you know, her alcoholism and her spirituality, but also, did you guys notice that scene where she's talking? I think it's like when they're running around in Vegas when the aliens are attacking, and she's having a conversation with Byron, and one of her eyes, like, she has pink eye, right? Did you guys pick up on that?
No.
In the book, she has pink eyes?
In the movie, I'm sure of it. One of her eyes is so
Is this a theory
bloodshot.
corner?
It's not. I'm playing the sting anyway.
Theories.
I have a theory that Annette Bening had pink eye on the set of Mars Attacks.
Wow. That's a hot theory.
And it's such a good theory that we're not going to play the making fun of me theory song.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's fine. It would be not worth the 15 to 25 seconds that it would take to get through the whole thing. So we get to I guess we should talk about the meeting of the alien. You know, we have sort of about 20 minutes of introduction to every character, right? And we're getting through it. We meet them in chunks, right? So we're not just meeting one character at a time. It's sort of like we're gonna meet 5 characters at once, and the way that they interact with each other is how we determine who they are for the rest of the film. And it's very important
with each one.
Yeah, and everybody gets a little bit of dialogue, a little bit to say, and you fully understand their characters almost completely. I can't think of one character that was confusing throughout the movie. Like, I knew who everybody was already within, and I think that's just a testament to Tim Burton's ability to sort of caricaturize people in certain movies, right? In a lot of his movies. And like for a long time he got shit for sort of, they would call him like a little boy director because everything felt like a storybook and everything felt like very clear and you didn't have to do a lot of thinking. But you know, I think the argument can be made that this movie falls into that category where you're like, I know who everybody is. I know that Glenn Close is like an uptight, very obsessive kind of a bitch, and she is more concerned about what everybody else is going to think than how she feels. And I will say, I think Glenn Close is maybe one of the funniest characters in the movie.
Her death is one of the best deaths in the movie.
Yeah.
Her death is funny, but like just everything she says is funny. Like she's doing like these really cutting looks at people the whole time, and like the stuff that she says is rash but also still proper. When she's sleeping, she has these weird stickers on her face that I'm like, I assume that was a thing in the 90s where it's like if you put these wrinkle stickers on your face you'll look younger or whatever. And she's like criticizing past first ladies for their decorating choices. Even just before she dies, she says the Nancy Reagan chandelier or whatever before it crushes her.
But then her, like, I like that death because she crumpled, like, it's clear, obviously a dummy, but it crumples in such a way that's like so comedic.
Yeah, it's a goofy mannequin folding on itself. But then there's like the irony of like she's obsessed with every little detail of the White House, and she's crushed by a chandelier that she wanted to replace one, and was also knew like what first lady installed it in there. I do also like that Natalie Portman keeps reminding her that it's not her house. It's like, this is not your house. This is
the White House.
Yeah, this is the house that belongs to our country. You're just kind of here for a bit.
Yeah, you got 4 years here and then you're out. For sure.
But I mean, I could go on and on for every character, because it's perfect in the sense that you don't have to do a lot of excavating, and you don't have to watch this movie 10 times to really be like, but what did that character mean by that? It's like, no, they basically just mean what they mean, and everybody is it's they're interesting and fun. And I mean, I'll put it up to you guys. Is there any character that when they were on screen you were like, ugh, I don't want to talk, I don't want to see this guy for a bit, I want to get back to the next person?
I think.
No,
Go ahead, Jacob.
but I do like how quickly the movie's set up, that there's no backstory. Like you immediately, you like you mentioned that you know who everyone is, you know what they do, and then you just get on with it. This could have easily been a 2.5 hour movie, I think, if they developed the characters anymore. But I mean, the main character is the aliens, and all they want to do is disintegrate everybody.
Yeah, so I agree with that, and also I think that the people who die early were the worst, least developed characters.
Yeah,
they're the real one note characters, except for Pierce Brosnan is a pretty complex character comparatively, and he goes and gets abducted and becomes an experiment. And Sarah Jessica Parker is one of the most 2D, 1D, one-dimensional characters. But when she gets abducted, she becomes more interesting because she's turned into two characters. One is an attractive woman body with a chihuahua head, and an ugly woman face on a chihuahua body.
Well, I mean,
that was a dig at Sarah Jessica Parker. And to be fair,
horse face on a dog's body.
She was attractive in the.
It's a horse head attached to a chihuahua body.
Exactly.
I do think that's the best kiss scene, is the one where their heads kind of roll together at the end.
Yeah, it is good. Yeah, I think that the purpose of that entire dynamic, the two of them, is that typically these movies do have this sort of ongoing romance that happens throughout them, and rather than have it be a thing where two people are having to constantly make their way through the environments and the situations and being like, oh man, he has to save the woman and she has to, be like, have some attitude, and then they kiss at the end. It's like, no, they both get abducted, and they're just heads basically. And that the remote romance is just them being like, I liked when I kissed you.
Yeah.
I liked when I was flirting with you.
That was kind of my point about Jason Stone, Michael J. Fox's character, not being the asshole. As soon as the aliens started attacking, she immediately hugs Donald Kessler, or whatever Pierce Brosnan's character is. And I was like, she's kind of in the wrong, because she's on national TV, like, hugging this man. I know that she was scared or whatever, but their romance kind of starts in that moment. And I kind of felt bad for Michael J. Fox for the rest of the movie going forward. That's when I realized, like, as a kid, I had it all wrong. Like, you're right. Like, the movie was playing with my undeveloped brain, but when you analyze these things, they're a little bit more complex, even in this like seriously uncomplex movie. And I'd like to compare this movie, speaking of like movies where they set up a character, they're very caricaturized, I'd like to watch the movie Rat Race, and that's another movie that has like 30 actors in it. No, I don't really want to watch Rat Race that bad. I know it's stupid.
I know. I scoff because I'm like, that movie's not as good as Mars Attacks.
No, I get that, but you see my point though, right? I want to see if that movie, because I remember that movie taking time to develop characters, but I could be.
You want to watch Mr. Bean and Newman have to make a heart get across the country or whatever.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I want to see if this movie, how this holds up to other large cast ensemble movies.
I mean, I haven't seen Rat Race since I was a kid, so I cannot actually. I scoffed, but I don't know. Maybe it's brilliant. Who knows? All I know is that at the end they are at a Smash Mouth concert and they all crowd surf.
Yeah,
that's all I really remember.
I remember that one pushing the envelope of like it's a kids movie that adults can enjoy, which this definitely is. That Mars Attacks was.
Yeah.
You go see it with your teenage kids or your 10-year-old kids. And the adults.
Yeah, there's nothing that makes you squirm in this. There's some kind of gross stuff here and there, but it's not. It's fun. Like it's goofy. Even the Pierce Brosnan with his body parts everywhere didn't really kind of freak me out. And I used to get really freaked out at everything. And I was quite young when I watched this.
I've got a question for you guys.
Oh. What is it?
Damn it. I've got a question for you guys.
Oh, what is it?
If you had to pick one,
Well, what do you think
but
the Home
when
Alone of it
is
all
the
is?
Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone?
I really gotta
When's the
know.
Home Alone
When
of it all?
is the Home Alone of
What
it all?
is
the Home Alone of it all? Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
You really keep going to the well with that newsy voice, and I love it. Jacob, if you don't know, and if the people at home don't know, the Home Alone of it all is the point of the movie, in the movie Home Alone, where Kevin McAllister slaps the blueprint down and starts getting ready to turn the house into a Saw 4 style torture pit. I posit that every movie has a Home Alone of it all. It's the part of the movie that attracts you. It's the part of the movie that it's the selling feature of the movie. Lots of horror movies, it's when the killer gets going, you know.
It's the trailer. It's like
the
trailer.
trailer.
When you're in a movie, the trailer shows you what you really want to see, and that's why you're there. Is there a moment in this movie?
Now,
I would say it's when the aliens first disintegrate the general.
Mhm.
So you're like, okay, shit's about to go down. There's the kind of tease that they come in peace with the translator, which I have so many questions about that translator.
Yeah.
like, how did he develop that technology
So quickly.
without
So
really knowing?
Well, all you really need is 400 common phrases or words to be able to decipher a language.
They have one common phrase. It's ack, and like stressed out ack.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit later than that. I think it's like when they're going full fucking tilt, like when they're showing them blowing up monuments. I agree with you, Jacob, but just to be a contrarian for the sake of the segment, I think that when we get the people running around and the interstitials of things blowing up, and then the scenes that we are assuming are from the 50s cards, like when they're in front of the Taj Mahal, when they're in front of the Eiffel Tower, that sequence up until basically the Vegas crew gets onto the plane and flies off, I would say that's the Home Alone of it all.
So it's kind of when they realize they're actually attacking because they
Yeah.
had the misunderstanding, or you think it's a misunderstanding. Then the part where the translator kind of translates the message they're beaming down, and
Yeah.
then
When he pulls out that roll of condoms.
Which is also like maybe one of the funniest sequences is like when they're in that sort of boardroom and the scientist is like, I have deciphered the language of the aliens, and then they're all like, the president's writing it down. He's like, how many centuries did he say? It's like 8. And then it like completely finishes, and it's like this voice being like, for 8,000 centuries we have watched the zebra grow and the stripe thin, and like all this stuff that doesn't make any sense. And then at the end, General Decker is like, what the hell does that mean? Like, he's just like, I don't know what the hell I just listened to.
Well, that's something that I picked up that I didn't pick up when I was a kid too. I think that was a prophecy, because at the end of it, he's like, then we must harvest.
Oh, I gotta listen to that translation again then.
Yeah.
My Home Alone of it all is when probably in the House of Congress, and as soon as Grandma says they blew up Congress, and she starts laughing.
my favorite line in the whole movie. I had that written down.
But my second one is probably when Lisa Marie shows up and bites off Martin Short's finger, and when she gets her head blown up, and it's the moment where they're looking through the ring, the president and the first lady are looking through the ring, and they all start getting their suits on, like dun, 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 dun. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is the movie, it's starting now. And then it's just havoc after that. But this one's a little bit harder to pin down because you think Mars attacks, you think the climax is going to be like, this is when Mars attacks, but it's like, no, Mars is attacking from the first moment. The first frame you've seen is like, what is it, Korean New Year or whatever, like, and the guy's like, no, it's not us, and there's a bunch of cows on fire and you see a ship go back to Mars. Yeah, that's when the Home Alone of it all is.
Perfect. So you mentioned Mars attacking.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
I don't think there is a title drop in this movie per se, but at 47 minutes and 3 seconds, they do say the Martians have attacked, which I thought might have been Tim Burton avoiding saying Mars Attacks through the whole movie, and him just putting that in for the people that look for that sort of stuff.
That's also a thing they would do in the 50s, is like, we can't say the name of the movie in the movie. That's too hokey. And it's like, your whole movie is about a giant rabbit that came from Venus or whatever.
Your movie's about people kidnapping people and turning them into people that go into pods. They snatch their
I can't imagine what that movie's called.
Yeah. Which is a great movie. The original 1950s Invasion of the Body Snatchers is highly watchable. I understand that the old Sutherland, the one from the 70s, is much better.
Donald
Sutherland. Is that or Wicker Man? Anyway, I think Donald Sutherland is in the 70s.
The original Wicker Man is much better than the newer Wicker Man.
Yeah, Wicker Man. Yeah. Not the bees. But yeah, that's the title drop, in my opinion, unless you guys actually heard them say Mars Attacks in this movie. Okay.
And that's when Mars attacks. Lisa Marie is also a weird one. She was like Tim Burton's muse for a while, I think.
Were they together before he was...
There were a couple.
Yeah, because I remember weird pictures on like an Entertainment Tonight, seeing them together and be like, she looks like a
Tim Burton drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he looks like Tim Burton, a weird gangly.
Who also is a Tim Burton drawing.
Yeah.
Just drawing myself. I want everyone to look like me.
I think that everybody should just look like me. That's my Tim Burton impression.
Tim Burton has just a regular voice. Like, you can't really do an impression of him because he just sounds like a normal person.
I watched him in an interview recently for something. I think he was talking about Nightmare Before Christmas.
He kind of does this a lot. He'll laugh and do his shoulders while he's laughing.
You can develop a whole impression around that, I think.
I probably could, yeah. Oh, are you talking about people or just me?
Just you specifically.
Okay. All right.
Byron found a law and became a better man. He doesn't do goon jobs anymore. May 13th.
He doesn't eat pork. You gave up pork.
I gave up pork and now I'm a better man. I'm like, bro, I eat so much pork, it's crazy.
No, you know that pork tastes like human beings. It's a good thing to give up.
Am I bad? Am I a bad person?
Yeah, they call it long pig. That's what they call human beings. Anyway.
They call it long pig. Why don't you ask me? Why don't you tell me? Jesse the Body Ventura.
Why don't you tell me what it tastes like? It tastes like human being.
Frog man.
I don't really understand. Like, so the Galaxy Hotel is what he's trying to build, right? Art.
That's another thing too. The thing that they destroyed that in real life, I believe. And that shot of the tower coming down is, I think I learned that from
actually demolished that. Yeah, but I saw that.
It's a real demolition shot. They kind of lucked out because like they were planning on building a miniature because they were like, well, we'll just make it look, decent, and we'll play up the camp. And then they're like, oh, there's an actual building that's being demolished, which is a thing they also used to do in the 50s. So there would be like, in 50s movies, there'd be like one shot in certain things that was immaculate and amazing. And it was because they would like luck out, a building's being demolished. Let's film it and put it in a movie. It'll be stock footage for 10 to 15 decades now. And like, that's kind of what stock footage becomes a lot of the time, is like there's people who have a whole business around just going and filming events that people can then put into any movie for a fee, right? There's like stock footage libraries that you can pay a membership fee to every year just to be able to pull images from it.
I don't have Netflix. I don't have Amazon Prime. I just have that. And I just watch old demolitions.
You're just watching like footage of like a cow being born. You're like, whoa, holy shit. That's crazy. Have you guys seen the footage of a cow being born on Shutterstock.com?
It's an Academy
I've got a
Award
subscription.
winner.
It costs me $500 a year, but it's worth it. It's worth every cow being born. They're not cheap. They're not Netflix cheap.
I found it interesting that I don't know if I ever explicitly knew that the aliens were saying ACK, but I was watching with subtitles and it said.
I mean, can any of us be actually sure their alphabet probably looks way different than ours?
Exactly.
Probably a bunch of spirals or something.
But as a kid, whenever people do the impression, they say ack, and it was.
That's not what I would say. I would go nyah, nyah, like gnocchi. You know the beginning of gnocchi.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Nyah, 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 nyah. That's what I would do.
That's pretty good. I've always done ack, but the credits.
Ack.
Maybe it's a combination of nyak and ack.
Depends what country the aliens from. They have regional dialects.
Yeah. People are like, ooh, from the tens.
Italian one.
Yeah, the Italian one. Like,
Yeah.
Ack.
yeah. One of them is just trying to continuously feed you pasta, and you're like, stop, please.
Oh, Noel's in the chat, and they say that's why I said ack. Noel's in the chat. Noel, I shouted you out. Go back and watch it. You're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
Jacob's gonna listen to your podcast.
I don't.
The hockey podcast.
Yeah.
Hit me up. I know more about hockey than Mars Attacks.
By a large margin, I imagine.
By a lot, significant amount.
Marge attack.
In my notes, I'm at the point where, like, they're just attacking for the first time. Jack Black getting dusted was extremely funny to me, where he's just like,
yeah. This was Jack Black is
Black.
one of the characters where he's really leaning into the character actory thing, which I like Jack Black a lot, and I think that he is a good actor. But he does play characters all the time, right? Like even when he in like something like School of Rock, where it's like he's playing essentially himself. But then you'll watch something like, have you seen the Goosebumps movie where he's playing R.L. Stein?
He plays R.L. Stein in that, right?
And it's like kind of good, where like he's making these choices as R.L. Stein, but it's still very much Jack Black. It's like what I can like attribute it to is like, have you seen Sweeney Todd, but where Benjamin Cumberbatch decided to play? It's like you're going to see an actor play a role kind of thing, where you're like, okay, I want to see what Jack Black can do with this role, and that's kind of how I feel with him and everything that he does, right?
I mean, this is the point in his career though where he was in like pretty normal stuff.
But I mean, like, what the point that I'm trying to make is like, Jack Black to me is like, you want to see, like, Jack Black is like, it's as if you're going to go watch Hamlet and you're like, imagine Jack Black playing Hamlet, but he does that for every movie that he's in, where it's like, imagine Jack Black playing the character of Macbeth, but it's like, that's just kind of how he goes into every role that way, where you're like, I can imagine a million other people playing this character a different way, but because it's Jack Black, it's better, right? So like that character putting the gun together with his eyes behind a blindfold, and I think they say something like a really high amount of time, like it took him like a long time. It was like 2 minutes or something. You're like, I feel like even I could do that if they showed me how to do it maybe once or twice. I could do it in less than 2 minutes.
He was pretty normal in I think High Fidelity, I would say, is one of his more normal, and he's done a couple of rom-coms like more recently where he's kind of normal. But I do know what you're saying, like he's like the ultimate character actor. Because
Jack Black.
I don't know if he's the ultimate character actor. I think that goes to like Gary Oldman or something. But like, because he is himself, right? He's not a chameleon. He's like,
right. I see. Yeah,
a guy who is like, we got to this is a real Jack Black. If Jack Black plays this, it'll be better. And we can't find a Jack Black type person to play it. And if we don't find Jack Black to do it, we got to change the character completely.
The amount of times that people said that I was Jack Black through my 20s, you would think that Jack Black was playing me.
Did you have long hair and a beard?
I just looked like this in my 20s.
So I wonder why people said that to you.
Except without glasses.
Yeah, you have long hair and a beard and you're funny.
Noel says ultimate character actor is Alfred Molina.
You know what? That's maybe
that's pretty
true.
Good. Alfred Molina was such a chameleon through my whole life that I didn't even like like recognize who he was until he played Doc Ock, and then now I go back and watch old movies, and he's in everything. And he's still in stuff all the time, and I'm like, how did I just miss?
He goes back as far as Indiana Jones playing betraying guy, whatever his name was.
If it's an indie movie, he's gonna be betrayed by somebody.
Yeah, but he betrays him within the first 5 minutes and gets a bunch of darts in his back or whatever and dies.
Yeah. Also, Noel mentioned Shallow Hal, but that's a Farrelly Brothers movie, so everybody's acting like a crazy person. And also, we don't talk about Shallow Hal. And Noel, I'm surprised you mentioned Shallow Hal, because wouldn't you hate that movie?
I mean, I watched it once in theaters when I was a kid, and I remember being like, this movie is mean.
It's a super
I don't
mean
think
movie.
I want to watch this anymore.
And knowing what we know about Gwyneth Paltrow now, she was probably.
And now that
she's
like, I'm on a diet of my own farts. That's all I eat.
That's all I eat.
You're like, okay.
Do you want a candle that smells like my
And
vagina?
I've been making candles out of my own farts since 2021. And I'll tell you right now, it's changed my life and the lives of thousands.
Literally hundreds.
Hundreds of people have smelt my fart candles.
Because they cost so much money that you have to be an elite to buy them.
Yeah, it's a $20,000 candle and it just smells like farts. And you're like, oh God.
This week's podcast brought to you by Goop.
Goop. Isn't that like the microphone you put inside your vagina to hear your baby doing karaoke or
Name of
whatever?
her company, Goop.
That's the name of her company.
Sorry. But I think that's a good idea, right?
What are you talking about? A microphone?
A microphone you put inside your vagina to listen to your baby sing karaoke.
Called the Goop?
Yeah, the gooprophone.
I think he's riffing.
I don't know. Guys, if we can get enough backers for this, we could have $1 billion idea here.
And
Imagine your unborn baby singing Journey's The Other Side of Eden or whatever. That's a song they made, right?
Jacob, you look like you want to say something.
All right. Anyway, Gwyneth Paltrow, she's good in some movies. Let's talk about this movie we're talking about. Mars Attacks.
I'm at the point in my notes where meanwhile, the autopsy of the Mars man, green goop for brains. Speaking of goop, tied it all in.
When he like pulls the goo out and he goes, curious. That's like the moment that I'm like, man, I wish this would stop for him, because they have a physical thing there, right? You can see it and it looks so good. And then later when they're piling the bodies into wheelbarrows and stuff, you're just kind of blown away by how amazing the physical items look. I'm almost like, it could have been puppets.
There
could have been
a couple practical alien bodies throughout the movie, though. Like when the two kids are shooting their guns, they get the alien guns, and also we didn't talk about how they show them shooting guns through the whole movie, and then of course they get guns and they become the gunslingers.
Yeah, that's them playing that weird video game where there's a man being eaten by piranhas.
Yeah,
over and over.
That's like a one-dimensional like telegraph.
But it's also it's to be like they're gonna be good at shooting later, and
but anyway, my point is when they're in some Parliament building, I think when they're on that trip, when they get the guns, they jump behind.
They're in the White House.
I thought it was
no, they're going. They say earlier we're going to the White House for a field trip.
Oh, they shoot the Washington Monument over, and they're trying to shoot it back.
Yeah, onto a bunch of Boy Scouts. Yeah,
but they jump behind a very practical alien. And I was like, that looks awesome. I wish they would have done more with that.
Well, I mean, the autopsy scene also is a practical alien. It looks really good. I even think that the head that he steps on at the end, when Jim Brown steps on the alien at the end, it is real, like maybe a frame or half a frame before he steps, and then it turns into, because it looks so good, and then it just all of a sudden turns into like a bunch of spaghetti, and you're like, ugh.
No, it's just really
Digital
bad
spaghetti.
CGI goo.
Yeah.
Goop.
I do really like when Jim Brown just boxes the aliens. Why don't the aliens have guns there? Like, just shoot.
Because it's
Well,
just a comedy moment where they're like, they square up, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, he says like no weapons, and he has one of their alien guns, right? It's not like he has a human gun. He has one of their guns, and he throws it on the ground, and he goes like, and then the ambassador, the guy who's been betraying people over and over, takes off his. He's like, right, let's fucking do this shit. And then I don't think he lands a single hit, right? Like the ambassador, like he just keeps like.
For the ambassador fight Jim Brown though, he's giant.
I don't know. I think it was primarily for comedy and to just get him out of the plane because he needed to go somewhere and they needed to go somewhere, and it wouldn't make sense if they were all together. And also, it's fun, but it's also, I agree though. It's not great. It kind of feels like it should have been better. So the way I would improve this is that the ambassador does square up. And like Jim Brown punches him with one punch and breaks through his helmet and just like goes right into his head and kills him. And then all the other aliens start fighting him, and he's doing it to like every single one. So he's like one punching a ton of them.
I wanted to see more of that.
Yeah. And so like they pile on him, and then that's when the plane goes over and they get off, and he's dead, quotation marks. Or he actually just like fist fucks every single one of them. Like one's running away and he like double-handed like
picks him up
the
by the legs and smashes his like head down, and the glass goes everywhere. I mean, the whole scene is just he gets out to distract them. So the fist fighting, it's a good thing they decided not to just shoot him on sight. The fist fighting thing was a good as the distraction, so they could get out of there with the plane. But I agree, they could have done so much more. They played up this dude. People keep coming up to him through the whole movie, being like, "You're the greatest boxer in the world.
People around here love me."
Yeah, those nuns, like nuns go to boxing matches, and they're like, "Yeah, we saw your."
Oh yeah, the nuns. I forgot about the nuns.
69 or whatever.
Everyone's like,
We've been watching. We love fighting, don't we, sisters? We love a good bout of fisticuffs.
they're like, oh god.
That's why the nun ghosts are so scary.
Yeah,
it's true. They love boxing.
They love boxing.
Yeah,
they come out of the graves and just start fucking
you
fighting you at 10
You wake
years
up at your
old.
buddy's house and you just hear like. And like a bunch of like, yeah, and then you look through the window and just a bunch of nuns like fist fighting each other, like nun ghosts fighting in a graveyard.
That's awesome. I love that thought too. Like, it's right after Halloween, so all of our brains are very much on that like spooky mode.
Yeah.
And did we both just say spooky mode at the same time? We did. Spending too much time talking on.
That'll be our spin-off podcast.
Spooky
We've got two
mode.
now. We've got bong thoughts from my journal, my dream journal, and spooky mode.
Spooky mode's a good name for a podcast. Don't steal
One a
that.
year though. One a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One spooky mode a year.
We only do one a year, and it's the day after or 2 days after Halloween.
But I like the idea of nuns fist fighting in a graveyard, and I can picture it like perfectly.
Yeah. Her head gets hit, and her like habit goes nuts for a second.
I hate it when my habit goes nuts.
Yeah, my habit just went crazy the other night.
Right. So yeah, we got the autopsy of the Mars man, green goop for brains. The spaceship is very Tim Burton. I mentioned that already. All the brains in jars and stuff. Also swapping the head of the woman for the dog. The special effects are very obvious, but cartoony in a way that I didn't find to be that jarring. I thought it was just like wacky comic booky, like how are you going to make that look real without it being full body horror?
Nothing else looks real in the whole movie.
Exactly. Like just make it all look.
So it's great. It didn't take me out of it at all. Loved it.
Yeah, I think Tim Burton is one of those directors where his art direction in everything else often makes up for the absurdity in CGI. And that's one of the reasons that people harp on him so much now is because he leans so hard into everything being CGI that the makeup and the costumes aren't really doesn't cut it anymore, man.
Yeah,
you still
like
need
the
to have a
Oompa
couple of
Loompas.
good set designs and stuff, and then maybe have something CGI to enhance it. But when you do like Alice in Wonderland and
Deep Roy,
Willy Wonka and
Deep Roy, what's his face in
Deep Roy, that's his name.
Yeah, or
His full name.
Deep Roy.
Yeah.
Him playing the Oompa Loompas in the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, like that scene is like it feels so soulless compared to the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory that I feel like it was a giant misstep of Tim Burton trying to make something in his
You know,
style.
I don't like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie, but there are some things in that movie that I think are redeemable. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I like Tim Burton so much that I'm able to give him a certain amount of passes. And you're like, all right, I'll pass you on that. 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 And you're like, do I give him 5 more passes? Or so like, yeah, I was like, no. And so ultimately the movie fails, but I don't know, man. I was so excited because I thought he was gonna do like a Edward Scissorhands
Like
or
a
a Beetlejuice
darker,
style,
kinda
like something
weird.
very dark. And it
Yeah.
is dark. It's quite dark, but
I still
he
haven't
should have.
watched,
Sorry, go ahead.
the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate.
Right. The problem is that he lets the Tim Burton-y stuff exist outside of the Chocolate Factory. Outside of the Chocolate Factory, everything should have just been normal. And then
Like,
inside of
extremely
the
gray too. Like in the original movie, you got old people sleeping in beds. You got everything's real boring. You got, you know, just
inside of the, it should have been outside normal, inside Tim Burton world, right? Where it's like everything is kind of normal, but everything everywhere outside of the fucking outside of the Chocolate Factory was also like Charlie Bucket's house is on like a fucking 75-degree angle, and the house is the other way, and there's a chimney that has like an elbow in it, and you're like, okay, so everything is like a kooky Tim Burton drawing.
I'm gonna continue to not watch that movie ever.
Yeah,
your kids might like it.
hard.
Fuck them.
They they also might like the original one, so maybe
We have watched the original many times. It's great.
Okay.
Fuck Grandpa Joe, and everything else about that movie is great.
Nolan in the chat says Alice in Wonderland is a monstrosity. Tweedledum and Tweedledee played by that guy from Little
Matt
Little
Berry?
Britain.
No, is it Matt? Not Matt
No,
Berry.
it's not Matt Berry. It's the one of the guys who isn't on Britain's Got Talent from Little Britain.
Yeah, his name's Matt something. Matt Reese? I think Matt Reese. Yeah.
CGI so bad only cats can rival it. Now cats.
Oh, I thought you meant like only cats can defeat it. Like they would have to like, fight.
You need
No.
cat-like reflexes.
No, I watched the Cats movie, and after seeing the Cats play, and I think I lost a few years from seeing those two so close together of my
I
life.
do want to see the butthole edit of Cats.
The original one before
The
they.
original butthole edit.
That's
Come
a
on.
movie that they
Yeah,
were.
I want to see the butthole edit, but only the buttholes, where it's just like a bunch of like it's
Yeah.
like a TikTok video that's maybe 45 seconds long, where it's just holding on the butts.
That's a movie where they had like they don't do this very often, but like that had like live like patches, like updates, where they would pull the movie and then update stuff and then put it back in theaters. The only other movie, excuse me, that I really know about them doing this is Across the Spider-Verse, but that was just to add different.
There's a bunch of movies that have done it in the
There's
past as
yeah.
well. Stanley Kubrick used to do that sometimes. And he wouldn't do it because people were giving it bad reviews. He would do it because he would go see it in theater and notice something and be like, no, I gotta change one frame of something.
That's how.
Well, he was insane, but also I
That's
think
how
they did.
Mandela effects are created. Just as an aside.
Well, Mandela effects aren't real,
No.
so we can all just never talk about that again.
True.
Oh,
Just chat for a second. I'll be right back.
I thought you were gonna read from the chat. I didn't know you meant us chat. Where were we? So we've gotten through the second attack. We are up to what? I guess like the infiltration of Tim Burton's muse. I don't know how you feel about this character, but I think it is maybe the most fun and interesting character that exists.
So good. So much
Yeah.
fun.
And this is where when Jason earlier was talking about how the music doesn't really do it for him, I was like, what about I wanted to bring up this scene where I'm like, the music in this whole sequence is amazing, right? It has like that sort of like like this sort of like a choir of like maybe 3 feminine voices.
Doesn't blink once in the whole movie.
Yeah, and she's chewing gum the whole time, like vehemently. I love her dress is amazing.
She had to be sewed into that. There's no seams on it.
Okay, that makes so much sense. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. Yeah,
She had to be sewed into it every time they filmed that character.
I like that they made it so that it was almost the same exact color as her skin, so it just almost looks like it's painted on her, but there's still that sort of sparkle to it.
Yeah. I like how much of a dirtbag Martin Short is in this as well.
Yeah. And that's another thing that, like, you get the idea that he's a dirtbag, or not necessarily a dirtbag, but at least a person who is not necessarily trying to benefit the best interest of Earth so much as like, how do we look good? And so you're like, oh, he's just like a schmaltzy. He's got the perfect hair in the suit and like he's smiley. And then you see him picking up a bunch of prostitutes later, and he uses the same tactic, right? And
The most painful like experience of anyone in the movie as well, getting his finger bitten off.
yeah, and
Integrated.
unclear if he's dead, but he never shows
yeah.
up again. So I guess he's dead. I do love when someone gets hit in the head with a statue in every movie that it ever happens. I can't think of a bad, like, because a statue is heavy. It's made, usually they're made of metal or stone, so you're gonna get hurt if you get smacked with something with a base that's square and pointy. It's probably gonna kill you or seriously injure you.
What part?
When Martin Short gets his finger bitten off by the alien lady.
Martin Shorts.
Martin Shorts. I watch Only Murders in the Building, and he's like an old guy now, but I'm
Are
fascinated.
you telling me that Martin Short in the
Martin
year
Shorts.
2023 is old now?
I'm fascinated seeing him young now, though. Is my point.
But he was already kind of old in this. Like he was like, in his 40s, I think. In this
True,
movie.
but like he looks significantly younger. I'm gonna watch Clifford soon.
He's older than we are.
Plays a literal kid in Clifford. Him and
I saw Clifford in theaters.
that scene
my
where he's
uncle-
like, "Can you just
my
make
uncle
a
took me
straight
to see
face for one moment?" He's like,
And he's like, yeah, like crossing his eyes
so
and stuff.
funny. I don't know why that kills me so much, but he's been when he dies, that's gonna be a loss because he's been a constant comedy figure in my life, my whole life. I think he has for all of us, really. Like Canadian, from SCTV right up to Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah. Remember when he was the guy in Arrested Development, and who he didn't, instead of using a wheelchair, he just had a man that carried him around.
Yeah.
Dragon.
Watching that show from the start right now with my kids.
With your kids. Wow.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
How old's
Yeah,
your
but-
oldest?
It's like I draw the line at Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but
No, we're not. The first movie's perfect. We don't need to watch a remake.
yeah.
I don't care how different it is.
I mean, it's based on a book, and it actually is more closely related to the book than the original was. But I just saying, I gave it 5 chances and it failed all, so I understand. We got up to we were talking about the Martin Short scene, and I just was talking about how perfect the design of like everything for her costume, like the dress, the hair, and I didn't even mention the little handbag that she has is just shaped like a gun. Like it's just like, it doesn't have any kind of other purpose other than it has some gum in it, and it is actually just shaped like a gun.
Also,
It would be like walking around with a gun-shaped handbag, and then you opened it and you just had a gun inside it and shot somebody.
And her walk is so good too.
Oh
Just
my god, yeah.
roll.
Where she's kind of like, she's floaty,
Yeah.
and then even when she's like doing the Looney Tunes like fast, but she's still floaty. She's like,
sorry.
shit, way
Sorry.
to barf over top of me with my own voice.
No, I just wanted to say my little theory. I didn't mean to interrupt you though. It just played on its own. Finish your thought though. Sorry. Anyway, I have a theory that the reason why she looks like that is
It's
because
she has an alien head underneath her hair.
no, there's a scene where the alien is reading a Playboy from
Oh.
the 70s.
Right.
And that's their closest approximation of what a woman looks like that would confuse somebody.
That's a good point. I always just assumed they were horny, but maybe they were trying to find something to make people horny.
Yeah. That's sorry. I honestly
Did it
didn't
for
mean
me.
to steamroll. Yeah, Jacob finished 8 times during that scene. There, now you can't let your kids watch this podcast.
Jeez. Yeah, no, I never actually put that together. I always just was like, what? And then later when he pulls his speech out, it looks like a roll of condoms.
It looks
to
like
me.
a roll of condoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That might have just been a joke. I don't know if that,
or just like, what would be weird? Like most people pull out paper,
yeah.
or like imagine he had a digital thing. Brrr. Instead, he just has like a weird strip that he's like, let me, where was my place?
Noel says, I'm getting feminist masterpiece Last Action Hero vibe. So Noel was on for Last Action Hero. That's the movie they did, right? And we determined that the way that they depict women in that movie is actually super empowering. That's kind of what we landed on, right?
Yeah. Yes, because they are basically just like well, I mean, I think the consensus we landed on was like there aren't any real women characters in the movie that exist for us to be like, oh, they're being treated poorly,
right?
And then like everyone else, all the other women are just like BDSM characters that are working a Blockbuster and shit.
So this is kind of, this character kind of exudes that, like they built, I wouldn't say like they built the perfect woman, but they built a woman that can't be fucked with, basically, I think is the point.
Yeah, like Martin Short actually tries to kiss her, but because she's like, her mouth is sealed, he can't. And then he's like, let's get that gum out of there. And he sticks his finger in to try and get the gum out. And then his finger gets bit off and then spit into the fish tank, which when I was a kid, I was always like, yeah, good.
Yeah.
If somebody sticks their finger in your mouth, bite their finger off. If you don't want them to, what the fuck?
The setup and payoff of that whole scene is that he pulls up to a bunch of prostitutes and it was like, hey, ladies, you want to see the Oval Office? And then he tries to pull that shit with this woman as well.
Yeah.
The audience knows it's an alien because she's
with Lisa Marie, and she is not, she just has like the eyes, right? Like her eyes are fully wide the entire time. She never blinks. Her hair is huge. I think she actually was doing the walking. I don't think that they didn't have like a special pulley system or anything. Like she actually just figured out how to move without actually having her head and shoulders bob. And then even when she would do the run, like she would go down like this, but then she would like din din din.
That
like
little
she would
run
figure
actually
it out.
was probably the scariest thing in the movie.
But then later she's doing it again and she's just like din, 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 and like she's moving through the White House, but she's still not. It's like her legs aren't moving. Basically, she's just hovering, and it's a wonderful. It is one of those things that like throughout the movie you can find little perfect performances that are. It probably took a lot to get out of people, but you love it, right? Like, and even some of the animation, like there's the part where they really start to not to jump ahead to invade, but like there's this little sequence where that that robot with the big crab hands, it's finally showing it and its head opens up and there's an alien in there and he gets out and he tosses a lunchbox to the other alien and the other alien grabs it and then he jumps in and it's almost like one of those old like Looney Tune cartoons where someone's like clocking in and clocking out and they're like, your sandwich is in here, pal.
I'm actually disappointed that robot wasn't somehow throughout the whole movie, or at least shown or something, because it's such a cool like set piece. It's such a cool thing. It is great how they use it for like the big high-speed chase moment where Richie and Grandma, we haven't talked about Grandma enough. I guess we'll probably get into that as we wrap up the plot, but Richie and Grandma are a great duo. They've stuck in my mind pretty one-to-one through my whole life since I saw it originally. Like Richie's a great like everyman good guy. Anybody's the main character, he sort of is the main character. And Grandma is hilarious. Like I love old people characters who don't care. Her thing where she calls people the wrong name seems to kind of come and go, almost like she's doing it on purpose or something. Did you guys have any thoughts about that? Because she calls people Thomas, and she loves her cats who she knows their names. And I think she calls Richie by his right name a couple times.
Yeah, that's not how she has Alzheimer's. It's not like you don't completely forget who somebody is, period. Right. It's like it comes and goes. Like it can come and go within the same 5-minute conversation. It is tragic. It's a real thing that happens and it's hard to watch. And they did a good job of making it sort of like sweet in this movie. It's not even necessarily comedic. It's sweet, right? Where it's like she's having Alzheimer's and she's having that moment where she's like, I want to see Muffy and Pookie, and I want to see Richie. And then he's like, Grandma, I'm Richie. And she's like, okay, Thomas. Yeah, I want to see Richie. Richie was always the best one. And it's like, yeah, she could be fully aware that she has it. And she's using that moment to like show how much she cares about her grandson, which is very sweet, but also like kind of weirdly torturous.
Sad and torturous.
Like, Jesus.
I think one
Fuck.
of the best scenes in the movie, though, is where she's listening, like when they discover that the music can explode the alien heads, though. She's just sitting there listening to her music, and they're bringing this comically large, like it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon. They're bringing this comically
it looks like a
large
shrink.
laser.
It looks like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids shrink ray or whatever. Yeah.
Why were they going to use that on Grandma?
I don't know, blast her into fucking
All the people that, you know, the most defenseless people get shot with the biggest gun.
Yeah.
I mean,
they brought that thing in there to have some fun, and they like everyone else was running away, so they had to shoot them all, and they were like, who are we going to use this on? And then they finally found someone who was like unsuspecting, so they're like, all right, wheel it in as quietly as you can. We don't want to spook her because it takes like 5 minutes to get this thing warmed up.
I want to
And
know
it's
what
like-
it did, because the weapons that we see in this movie are like vaporizer rays.
It's like an inside out ray, maybe. It
and
turns you inside out.
A shrink ray.
It makes a little black hole in your mouth, and it like pulls your whole body through to the other side, and it makes you go inside out. That's what it does.
I think I saw that on Tiny. Doesn't somebody do that on Tiny Toons?
Tiny Toons. I was thinking more of like the Treehouse of Horrors, where it's like,
yeah, that's what.
yeah,
I was
don't
thinking.
worry, everything's fine. You're gonna be just all right. There's nothing to worry about except for that fog that turns you inside out. And then it goes through the windows, and they all turn inside out.
But then they dance and sing, and it's all fine.
Yeah.
This is her Sylvia Sweeney, who plays Grandma. It's her last film role as well. Which
I
will be
mean,
remembered
it's
know?
rude to say, but not shocking because she's clearly
Yeah.
so old.
She was in
yeah.
Beetlejuice as well.
Yeah, she's the
Smoking-
Yeah.
Yeah.
when they come in, it's like, Coach, whoa, what are we supposed to do? When's the game, Coach? I've told you I'm not your coach. Get the fuck out of here.
She's a grandma in a long line of grandmas that, much like the rapping grandma from The Wedding Singer and various other
Where's the beef lady
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that era of commercials?
various old ladies are great.
But a lot of them are like, they've been acting since they were in their teenage 20 years. Like, and I think she's one of them, right? Like she's
think-
been around.
I think Betty White never made it to that point. She just kept acting until the day she died, and she never had to do
Yeah.
these like bit part roles.
She's acting right now still.
Yeah,
There's
she's
like
playing a
Zach
corpse.
Baggins Ghost Hunters. They're like, are you here, Betty White? She's
Like,
like, I
"Oh."
told you I'm here.
I'm the dumb one from Golden Girls. That's really funny to think about. I miss her every day. I miss Betty. No, I don't care about Betty White. Whatever. That went from too sweet to too harsh. I have no middle ground. Somebody say something, please.
All right.
Did we
Golden
get to,
Girls.
did we get to Michael J. Fox's death yet?
We kind of skipped over
we
it, but
skipped
yeah,
over it, but if you
let's
wanna
talk
talk
about
about it.
how his
Something
hand
really
falls
bothers
off.
me.
Okay.
Hand doesn't disintegrate.
Yeah.
Why? Because someone's holding
So,
Does the watch? Is he wearing a watch? Does the
No,
watch
no.
stop?
it. No.
here's what happened, all right? The dog has his finger, right? And the dog is pulling on him because the dog actually likes him. The dog doesn't hate him like we are all meant to think. And he's running and he trips and the dog bites his finger to be like, come on, man, we gotta go. And he's probably like, get the fuck off me, dog. I hate you, dog. And then he gets hit by the lightning gun and his body's disintegrating because the dog's pulling too hard. As the disintegration happens at the wrist, the dog pulls it and it stops the disintegration. And that's why he has the hand in his mouth. That's a theory. A theory. If only there was some sort of sound to confirm that I was making a theory.
If only there was.
Theories.
That one's not, for some reason, it's not playing off the Google Drive, so my bad. That's a good theory. I won't play the theory sound when
I don't know. Does that answer your question? Do you need?
That's perfect.
I
That's
think
canon.
yeah, that is canon. I was gonna say something similar because she grabs his hand, right?
No, the
Yeah.
dog.
The dog, yeah, it gets pulled away from the disintegration, so the disintegration stops.
What kind of shitty disintegration do these fucking people have?
Disintegration at all, I think, is
Follow on it slightly and you're fine.
Yeah.
as
Light
soon as
touch defeats alien disintegration.
if you get blasted, you just go like.
Well, it
this.
also it takes all your marrow and your tissues out, right? So like the skeletons, the only reason they're holding together is because they were like they didn't move after. But if someone's yanking on your arm and you get disintegrated, your whole arm's gonna come off.
What if you're
Blob logic, you know? Have you seen the Blob?
What if you're masturbating while you get dusted?
Well, then
That's where
I hate to tell you, Jason, but they don't call it a boner because there's a bone in it. There's no bones in there.
Or you do
unless you
one
tug
up
on it.
and your boner goes flying. Oh, Noel says, I need Steven's sound lip making power. He has excellent voice.
Oh,
It's not-
thank you.
It's not the first time somebody has said that about your lip making power.
You know, a lot of people talk about my lip making power, and
Oh.
it makes me uncomfortable. But here we are.
Noel meant clip, not lip. But it worked.
Yeah.
You know, you make lip, it makes good sound.
You make the lips so good.
What were you going to say, Jacob? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, nothing. I just said lips.
I just said the word lips, you know.
Lips.
You have
Fine.
good clip making power, but also lip making power.
So I mean, I feel like this movie is mostly just sort of set pieces and scenes, right? Like we should probably talk about the scenes individually rather than like the story, because at this point the world is being attacked by aliens and we just kind of fly all over the place to different people dealing with it, right?
In my notes, I mean, we are coming up against time. It's already we've been.
I know, but I want to talk about the president dying. I want to talk about
Right.
Danny DeVito being introduced and then dying. I
So-
want to talk about Tom Jones.
Well, that's all in this. That's all in this next page.
All right. I'll let you go then.
They go into the war room, and now they
Very
Army
Doctor
General-
Strange love, which is
Yeah.
cool.
He wants.
All you needed was George C. Scott.
He wants nukes.
Which I guess that's what Decker was. Sorry, go ahead.
I never. Oh yeah, this is the point of the movie where I never noticed that Pierce Brosnan's fucking body parts, his heart and his lungs, are like outside of his body.
Stays
And
so
these-
calm through that. It's so impressive.
He's just fine. Yeah,
I'm ahead, but whatever.
Whatever. It doesn't hurt. I'm good.
But I remember thinking that like his character was so like strong and like, well, I'm very smart and serious. And then after that, I remember as a kid thinking like, oh, he's dumb now because he has like bolts in his head. Because everything he says is like, oh, yes, I'm so happy. But it might just be a fact of the fact that he doesn't have a body and be able to move. That I'm like, am I just seeing Pierce Brosnan for who he actually is, which is just a dumb, handsome face?
It could be. I was thinking about this too when he was talking about science throughout the movie. It could be that he is kind of an idiot. And
Well, okay, yes, of course. His character is an idiot. It's
Yeah.
like it's like the extreme of the other side of the coin of the general, right? They're like they're one coin flip away from one being just being like, we should go and offer kisses to the aliens versus like kill them with a nuke up the asshole. Like that's like basically what it is. Like,
I do like when the alien smokes the nuke,
yeah,
So
it
great.
sucks it up.
catches it, and sucks. Yeah. Refreshing.
that if this was like one rating higher, like if instead of it being like PG-13, it was 14A, that would have been a weed joke instead of a helium joke. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, man, is he gonna fucking hit that bong? But then his voice is high, and I was like, oh man, he's definitely high on that nuke weed.
What do you guys think? What's the odds that the new Beetlejuice is gonna have a bong joke in it?
Is he gonna? I wonder if they're gonna use some of the rumored script about him going to Hawaii.
It's not rumored. It was a real script that Tim Burton wrote specifically because he didn't want to make a trailer or a real movie. He's like, the only way I'll do it is if we get Beetlejuice in Hawaii. That's what I'm gonna do. And because he just didn't want to make it, and they were like, okay, well, I guess we won't do this.
We're not
then,
gonna
'cause
make
that's crazy.
Beetlejuice, which would have been one of those sequels that we all is beloved because it would have been so crazy and like dumb. This is Mars Attacks is.
It might have been great.
Yeah, that's what I'm
It
saying.
might have been amazing. Yeah.
Mars Attacks is basically his Beetlejuice goes to Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yeah.
I have like the alien is in the president's room and dusts the dog. They neutralize that alien. That's when we see the Martians all get suit up and get ready. The scientists discover that the gum allows them to breathe.
That's how they breathe.
The Washington Monument gag. And that's when I said this might be the Home Alone of it all. Them doing the gags throughout the world. But they can't breathe air, which is what they discover through this. And that's why the alien woman could, because she was chewing the gum. But then they discover they have a way to kill these aliens. But there's too many aliens.
So there's too many. So they go to the radio station, and that's how radio stations work, I guess. I don't know. This is where things kind of fall apart, where you're like, okay, don't worry about logic anymore. We'll imagine there was another character that existed that we never saw, who, you know, they ran into the old lady and Lukas Haas, and he was like, it's the music that's killing them, the music. And then that guy figured out a way to get a message to the president where they like sent it to the whole planet or whatever. Because, like, you know, that's not how radio stations work. You can't just go put on a song and then it plays out of the radio tower. That's not what happens.
Well, speaking of songs, Jacob, why don't you tell us about the Tom Jones scene? The first time we see him.
Dun, 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 dun,
Oh yeah.
dun,
Those are his
dun.
actual backup dancers. He made sure they were hired for the movie. I appreciate that. And then he escapes with Jim Brown. He can fly a plane, apparently.
That's the funniest,
That's
the funniest part in the movie, where
fly
it's like, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah, I love it.
Like, he's like, can you fly a plane? Yeah, you got one? It's like, what the fuck? This guy, yes, right away.
And part of that scene too was that
but the real question is, can Tom Jones actually fly a plane? Because
John Travolta can fly a plane, so Tom Jones can.
So can Harrison Ford. Not well, but he can do it.
Not well, but I can.
Speaking of flying a plane, I just want to change my background.
Oh my
god. I have to pee. I'll be back.
The reason why I asked
my dad died in 9/11.
Your cat died on 9/11.
My cat died in 9/11.
In 9/11. That's the tragedy. Why was your cat in the? Was your cat the? Did your cat do it?
My cat was a terrorist.
Yeah.
That's rude. We should cut that. Let's get rid of it.
No, I don't have any way to cut it. I wanted to bring up the Tom Jones part too, because when I was a kid, I loved the fact that the backup dancers, backup singers get switched out for the aliens, and they're like ack 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 for like a second.
Where they're dancing, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a real like Simpsons joke. I think that Tim Burton must love The Simpsons, because like a lot of the humor in this movie feels very Simpsons-y.
Simpsons was still in its prime at the time too. It was like a cultural phenomenon. The episodes were still good in 96.
Yeah. But I mean, like, there's a certain point in this movie where it goes from being this sort of like tongue-in-cheek commentary or emulation of movies from like B movies from the 50s to it transforms into an episode of The Simpsons where it's like everything is now ridiculous. Where it's like they're doing the goofy stuff that we know from these black and white movies, these giant monster movies, these Martians attacks movies, to it's like the aliens are dancing like, and then when the spotlight goes on, then they're like, and they just start killing everyone. You're like, okay, like this is now just, it's all schlocky and funny.
I have an answer from Noel in the chat about Tom Jones from Google. Can Tom Jones fly a plane? Tom began his aviation career in 1970, learning to fly at the TAFB Aero Club. Tom had flown over 75 different types of aircraft and had accumulated over 4,000 flight hours, currently flying in the unlimited, and then
copy and
cut and
paste
paste fell off.
So that's
confirmed.
Very, very good. I wonder if the joke came from him being there, if the joke came from, like, did they have Tom Jones as a lock? Did they want Tom Jones? Was that the joke? Tom Jones
was a kind of a cultural icon in the 90s still. So
well, he was also sort of a a bit of a punchline because like
Yeah.
his music was like
Carlton.
everything's about sex, but it's coded to not be sexual.
But it's also kind of like Little Richard, how Little Richard would always pop up in sitcoms. He's popped up in a couple movies.
Why do we keep
we've
bringing him
done.
up?
Well, it's just one of
He
those.
scares me. He frightens me. He's a weird man. He's got an uncanny valley effect.
He's like one of 4 gay icons before 2000. So like,
Is he gay? I just thought he was strange.
I thought he was gay. Or is he just strange?
Listen, I'm gay and I didn't know he was gay.
Hey Google, is Little Richard gay?
Imagine it just went.
If we're fact
Yeah,
checking,
like,
can we get a fact check on is Danny Elfman problematic?
oh, yeah. Let me get back to you. Calling Danny Elfman.
Hey,
It's like,
Google,
wait, why do you have his phone number?
stop.
It's like open to people calling him.
Just as a like when I was doing Blossom Buddies, Google Home was like kind of one of the third co-host. Could you guys hear that?
A little bit, but not well.
Okay.
I
Until
actually
something
do have
was
to go to the
going
washroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. What'd you say, Jacob?
I could tell something was going on, but I couldn't hear. I think it's because we were talking.
Yeah, we probably would have to stop. I probably would have to switch my mic to like listen to the whole room mode, which it can do now. Right. And then God said, "Let there be Tom Jones." This is when I noticed that Annette Bening had pink eye. The aliens show up on Tom Jones' stage and destroy everything. Danny DeVito has like 3 lines in this movie. 6 lines in this movie.
Lines in the movie. He's on screen for less than 2 minutes total. But he's on the poster. He's on the poster for the movie.
He's on. Is it this poster?
Yeah, his
there
name-
he is.
Yeah, Danny DeVito.
Right behind the little tape cassette thing.
He's in it for 2 minutes.
Little Richard confirmed Christian and gay. So, gay icon for the ages.
The original lyrics to Tutti Frutti. Have you seen this? It's all about gay sex. If you
Really?
the original, yeah. Then he like toned it down.
Because
For,
the lyrics to Tutti Frutti could be construed as
yeah.
they nuke France. Kill the.
Oh, did you guys already say Little Richard, Christian, and gay?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
I think Noel should come back every week and be person in the chair, because that's some good Google foo.
Just the original lyrics.
He was also self-hating homophobic, which
The
is
original
rough.
lyrics to Tutti Frutti are Tutti Frutti, good booty. If it don't fit, don't force it. You can grease it, make it easy.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
that is very gay sounding.
That's it.
Sounds like butt sex. Did you guys get the subtext there? It's
No,
butt sex.
I thought it was about like a really good chicken pot pie.
It was about a great fruit snack. Tutti Frutti, hey Rudy.
The president's super bummed out at this point. I wrote down this movie works best when it's an insane action movie, which I will agree with my past self.
I do like the president's line after Congress is destroyed. I want the people to know that they still have 2 out of 3 branches of the government working for them, and that ain't
half bad, or that ain't bad. Yeah, it's good. There's a lot of Tim Burton, I think, just letting Jack Nicholson be Jack Nicholson in these sequences.
What else?
Which, yeah, that's totally true. But at the same time, there isn't a lot really going on in these sequences other than just like, we got to have Jack Nicholson being crazy president, right? When he's like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. Like, that moment is really good and it works for the moment. But does it work for the movie? I don't really know. It doesn't really do much. I think it's just there for, like our parents who love Jack Nicholson. We're watching this movie because we like watching weird shit. And our parents are like, what's wrong with our children?
I also read Tim Burton was told by Hollywood that he couldn't kill Jack Nicholson in a movie.
So he did it twice.
He killed him twice. Yeah.
Actually, 3 times. This is his 3rd time. They didn't work together again after this, though, which was kind of sad. But I don't know if that was because Jack Nicholson was more particular about the stuff he was doing, or because I don't think they had like a falling out, or on record that I know of. I don't think there is. but it might have been. This movie did not really do that well either.
Well, what movies after this is Jack Nicholson really in until he starts?
A lot.
But no, I mean like being like old man, like his old man characters. Because he
The
kind of
Departed.
he kind of but he kind of switches into being like an old man character in most of the movies he's in. Like
That's
around
true,
this
but I
time.
mean, Tim Burton loves his old man characters.
True.
He could have had Jack Nicholson. He could still have Jack Nicholson pop back in and being like, I was a werewolf once, and now I'm bound to this amulet. It's called the Moon Amulet. I can't
guess
leave this attic without it.
he did as good as it gets. Like right after this, which is the movie that made me hate Greg Kinnear forever. Like this next movie,
He was still making a lot of movies at this time. Like it's not like he
True.
stopped making movies.
The reason why I said that though is because right at around he plays about Schmidt. They started to characterize him as in 2002. They started to characterize him as like an old guy instead of being like.
Well, I think that was also him making that choice as an actor, being like, I know how old I am, and I'm not gonna just keep playing the president over and over again because I can't handle it.
Also, Jack Nicholson.
You can't handle it. No one can handle it.
Has Jack Nicholson not been in anything since
In a while.
2010? If I'm looking at this?
He retired. He was like, I can't remember the lines. He's like, I can't remember the lines. That's what he would say when he got on set. No, yeah, he stopped.
He's
'cause
only
he was
in
like, I just
11
can't.
movies after Mars Attacks. That's fucking blows my mind.
Yeah, one of them was Anger Management.
Yeah.
Your favorite movie?
The Departed, Anger Management. Why do you say it's don't like that movie very much.
I don't know. I just like saying things that I know will upset you.
He plays himself in I'm Still Here, which was his penultimate movie, which it also blows my mind. He plays himself in I'm Still Here, starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Joaquin.
Phoenix. All right. We're coming up against it, friends. The president signs the order for the nukes. We get the...
And then the aliens show up and they show us a little snow globe.
Yeah,
which is fun.
Throw the ball through the room, and then you think it's going to be a bomb, and then it's just a snowglobe.
And they go, and then the general is like, I'm gonna kill you, and then he starts shrinking. I don't remember what he says because it's all just rhetoric and foolish and silly.
We get the nuke being inhaled part, which Jacob pointed out, which is
Right?
funny.
Yeah.
They blow up Big Ben, and they also turn Mount Rushmore into a bunch of alien heads, which I laughed out loud for some reason.
Really? I thought that
got
was a
me.
missed opportunity because they could have made them funnier. Like they just were 4 alien heads. They could have made like the alien heads, but they could have
Like as a gag of like other
carved a thing that the other people were known for or something. Like have an Abe Lincoln beard on one of them or something. Or just something strange, like they have Martian versions of these leaders.
That was probably thrown around, I would assume. And then they were like, how do we make an alien version of Elvis? Do you know what I mean? I guess they could have literally done that. They literally go, exactly. They just put an Elvis hairstyle on a Martian.
Yeah.
They play bowling on Easter Island while the Maori look on. I think that was supposed to be the Maori tribesmen. Maori is actually how it's pronounced. Maybe not. Miscellaneous tribesmen. Probably racist.
Easter Island is a territory of Chile, and it's in the Pacific Ocean.
Well,
so
I thought it was in the South Pacific. I thought it wasn't too far away from like Samoa.
I don't know. This is a thing that you should look up before you just say something.
No, just whatever you say is what it is.
Thank you, Jacob. Finally, somebody sees my genius.
Oh yeah.
They chill out. They chill out on the ship and watch Godzilla and the Dukes of Hazzard.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get another scene with Christina Applegate. She's just getting plowed by her boyfriend,
some guy
who
yeah.
died like military.
Like you said earlier, I'm sure there was more to that character. I'm sure there was more to every single character. They probably filmed so much for everyone, and they're like, we got to cut this entire Christina Applegate thing. We got to cut all this Jack Black. Jack Black probably had like a Wait, Jack Black wasn't she Jack Black's boyfriend or girlfriend?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's probably more to that, right?
That's, I think, when the Red Letter Media episode posits that there was like a whole Christina Applegate story
Storyline.
that was just cut
Yeah.
out of the movie for time, probably.
Yeah,
But even
I
still,
can't see Tim Burton like casting somebody like that of that. I mean, like she's not like a massive caliber actor, but she's like big enough that he probably
Bigger than
had
Jack Black.
plans.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, at the time, probably bigger than
Definitely.
Jack Black. Yeah.
Also, Noel in the chat said, and agrees with me that it's Polynesian, which is the Maori tribe.
So we're both right.
So we're both right. Yeah. So that's a good. I know I wasn't just saying things. I could tell by their makeup that it was meant to be a Polynesian tribe, like like Samoan tribe. They're Polynesian. Like
You know
I
someone-
didn't know that you were an expert on Peloponnesian fucking
I'm a professional
face
wrestling.
paint.
I'm a professional
Yeah.
wrestling fan.
Oh
We-
yeah, true. I guess that makes sense.
We
I
just
didn't even
know
consider
about
that.
Samoa because
True. Don't headbutt them.
Yeah, that's racist.
That's wrestling canon.
That's an old wrestling racism trope.
Well, yeah, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure because sometimes, Jason, I've said it before, you will say things with the utmost confidence of a person that knows exactly what they're talking about, but you'll just say something that's completely wrong, and then later I'll be like, I don't know if that's right, and I'll look it up, and I'm like, he just made that up on the fucking spot.
My
Just
wife
wanted to
hates
be
when I do
sure.
it too.
Life's better if you don't fact check, Jason.
Yeah.
A lot of things in my head from over the years. It's like, yeah,
One day there's going to be a rift in time, and there's going to be a character comes out, and it's going to be Jason, and it's his name is going to be Fact Check Jason. They're going to fight to the death.
Just trying to fix the timeline for all the.
Yeah, you've said too many incorrect things.
my Mandela effect is just me seeing things Jason said that are wrong.
Bernstein Bears, actually. Richie goes to get Grandma, and we get the crazy Martian robot chase. He picks up the parents. Like, Richie doesn't even react to any of his parents or family dying throughout this whole movie.
I think he hates them.
I think he hates them.
hates them.
He's
He
like-
also seems like maybe he's not even actually part of that family. Like he doesn't look like any of them, and like that he doesn't talk like them. There's like he just like seems like he's not part of their
He's
family.
just a neighborhood kid. But the alien robot picks up their trailer and then takes another trailer and just fucking smashes them together.
Yeah.
Which was just
That's
so
called
brutal.
satisfaction, though, where you're like, fuck these people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Them and Martin Short are the people you want to see die. in the
Yes.
movie.
Yeah. And you don't even really see Martin Short die properly,
just
but
saying
yeah, we did talk about how he had the worst thing happen to him out of everybody that we got to see and feel, being like, oh, his finger got bit off.
Did you guys see the video of the old lady who's on a standing swing with two other older ladies? And
I clicked away because I knew something bad was
she
going to happen.
goes forward and they go back, but she falls off and she falls on her head, and that's not the worst part. A couple seconds later, she's sitting on this. She's like trying to like figure out what just happened because she took her whole body to her own dome. Right? She fell like. That's not even the worst part. You can see her hand like on the thing next to her.
I don't want to hear
And
it.
3 of her fingers are just sideways. It's
Okay.
crazy.
I want to see this. Please send it to me after the show.
I'll try to find it.
I know exactly how it starts, and I haven't had anybody else ask me this. I saw it and I haven't seen it since, which means it's been taken away.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, yeah. And then like I'm like, okay, and I moved away because I'm like, there are 2 old ladies on a thing that's really unbalanced, something bad. Like I was scared it was gonna be like, because sometimes on TikTok you'll just see somebody die,
It's true.
and you're like, whoops.
Yeah. I've seen some things on TikTok.
I saw that before it got taken down today.
But she's so in shock that the people around her are just like, ah. And she's like, oh, I don't
She's
know.
like, oh, it's all right. It's okay. Come on, guys. I gotta fix my glasses.
She's feeling it all along. She's fine.
No, I mean, she's fine, probably.
Oh god, now I'm
Okay.
picturing it in my head. Fuck.
Yeah. Noel saw a sheep die. They haven't been on TikTok since. Danny goes one way and the Tom Jones crew go the other. At this scene, during this part where they're like running around in like the desert, they're at the neon. There's a thing in Vegas off the strip. We went there when I was in Vegas. It's the Neon Sign Museum. When they take neon signs down off buildings, they just throw them in this area where you can just
Right.
go and look at them, and they turn
Is
them
it an
on at night.
outdoor museum?
Yeah,
I
it's
feel
a-
like that would make sense. Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're at this part of the movie, which I clocked. This is when Danny DeVito gets fucking dusted. Because,
Oh, so that's an outdoor. That's cool. I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's cool. Because I'm like, why are they all on? Like, it seems like they're in a junkyard, but all the neon signs are on. It makes no sense to me. But if that's just a thing that exists,
the
that's pretty cool.
geography of the strip compared to that makes sense the way they're trying to escape. Because there's the main strip that goes until it just kind of becomes like shops. That's where Pawn Star's shop is, right? Just at the end
All right.
of.
I don't give a shit about.
And then
Pawn Stars.
Fremont Street runs perpendicular to the strip a little further down. And if this is like this, if you go like this way, this makes no sense. That's where that museum is. It's all close together. Is my point.
Oh.
I don't know anything about Vegas, but I have a friend who's an expert. Mind if I bring him in?
Yeah, bring him in. How long is it gonna take?
My Pawn Stars reference.
Yeah, no,
Oh, yeah.
I know. I was
got
just
it.
I was trying to continue on to it
All
the
right.
bit. Oh Jesus. So imagine
okay.
Freddy Krueger was killing people in there. That'd be cool.
That'd be
too.
sick. That should have
Anyway,
been used as a set piece. Danny gets dusted, but the crew went back, got the alien that dusted him. Grandma's okay. So
My friend.
Grandma's listening to her.
He knows a lot about
headphones.
Pokemon cards.
He does. I went to the Pawn Stars like toy shop that they had like a toy shop spinoff for a while. And I went there. 'cause
Yeah,
the
he's
other-
also not friends with any of those guys. He just like looked on the internet and he's like, who's in the area that can give me the coin value of this coin?
yeah. That show is all bullshit.
Wait, are you telling me that a
you telling
TV
me
show set in Las
the
Vegas is
reality show is
bullshit?
bullshit set in Vegas. It's all
Jason, I'm
bullshit.
gonna do that bit to the day we die. So just
Okay.
keep going.
That's cool. Right. So we get more of the high-speed chase with the robot truck. Richie's going to get Grandma. Grandma's listening to her tunes on headphones. Isn't any of the wiser. The headphones get pulled out as they're bringing in the giant, like, death ray. That bugged me that they kept resetting the song to the beginning just to hit home that part of the song was popping their heads. That said, it seemed like the rest of the song was popping their heads. So like, just play the song, because when it gets to the actual,
Or like, make it so that they realize that it's a certain frequency and then they could play other songs.
or that. But I kind of like that.
Like some Little Richard, perhaps.
What genre of music is? It's like Western country Western.
It's annoying, like old. It's almost like yodely Western.
Yeah,
That's
my
kind of what I
grandmother-
would call it.
My grandmother liked that when I was a kid. The Balls of
My
Snow.
grandma liked cool music.
Your grandmother listened to Run DMC exclusively.
Yeah, she was like, I can't think of a Run DMC song right now.
Christmas song.
All right, Stephen, come on now, doody dance.
Oh yeah, isn't she like extremely Scottish or something?
Yeah, she is or
Um,
was.
Oh.
Oh,
The
she died
general-
like a long time ago. I'm over it.
Yeah. So after the aliens come into the war room and reveal it's a snow globe, the fucking general comes in dual wielding fucking handguns, and he's like, "This is happening." But
And he
at
puts
the
him
same
down by
time-
his waist. It's
Yeah.
like he's fucking Clint Eastwood. Like, do you feel lucky?
and they shrink him and squish him with their foot.
Yeah.
With
I like that though. I like that they have a shrink gun. It proves Pierce Brosnan's point that he says that they are extremely advanced to the point that they have a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids gun in their back pocket if they need it.
So Jack Nicholson tries to appeal to them. He says they can rule together. They dust him after his very impassioned speech about it. The Jack Nicholson fucking like acting throughout this part, like putting in the work. They dust him, then they fucking this hand comes off.
And he's like, Earth and Mars,
and Mars.
together. Yeah.
This hand comes out of one of the aliens. It goes over to his head and becomes a flag out of his head. Right?
But it's a lot of that is like, that's puppetry and real. That's like real shit and CGI, which I thought, even as a kid, I remember like I knew kind of like what it felt like going across my body, because there are scenes where it is like a real thing, like grabbing him. And I think this probably one of the best effects, like practical effects in the movie
Yeah.
when it goes through him and stuff. It looks good.
Yeah. So pretty much everybody's dead. We get a shot of people driving around. That's when we get the shot of the radio station's frequencies like coming off of it. I get that they have to show it, but like
Yeah.
it's goofy. The Vegas crew make it to the plane. Richie gets to the radio and plays the music. We see the aliens doing more preparation. Byron creates a diversion by fist fighting them all. They murder
By
Byron.
fist whatting them all?
Fist fighting them all.
Oh, fighting. Sorry.
Give him the old tutti frutti. I also think it's dumb that the aliens fought him because they have glass helmets on,
Yeah.
and if they crack, they die. So to fight the scariest looking guy we've seen on Earth.
Hey man, I already gave you my version of that
still
fight
love
scene,
the
which would be
scene,
way
but-
better.
Yeah,
I should draw that, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Maybe.
You should. You're very
If-
talented.
for any new viewers, he fights them and he punches through their glass helmets, and that's why they start all attacking him, and that's what
they
happened.
have
Like,
guns the whole time.
I know, but he threw the gun down and was like, "Let's fight,
It's an awesome scene.
Mortal Kombat style."
So good.
The
You're
song,
right.
the song is called Indian Love Call. It's a 1952 yodeling cowboy Slim Whitman song, peaked at number 2 on the country chart. So it was
Slim Whitman.
also Indian Love Call sounds. That dude was definitely a white guy. You can tell by the way
Well,
that he
I mean, it's not actually Whitman. It's White Man. Slim White Man.
Yeah, the Vegas crew. So yeah, the heads fall off. Wait, yeah, the army is also using the song, blowing up everybody's heads. The alien ships are crashing and exploding all over the world. On the ship, the two heads of Sarah Jessica Parker and Pierce
They kiss as
Brosnan.
they go into the ocean.
Yeah, they kiss.
Poor
and-
man.
Yeah, it's pure romance.
I wonder
Um,
if Brosnan's alive though. Like, think about this: is he alive in the ocean afterwards? He
Like
doesn't have
floating
lungs.
around.
He doesn't have
Yeah.
lungs. He's not breathing. That fucking band around his neck is keeping him alive.
Oh, that would be a good sequel pickup.
Yeah.
Imagine
Mars
Tim
Attacks
Burton was
2.
like Mars Attacks 2, and
But it
like
just-
it's just Pierce Brosnan's head like
basically-
floating to the surface, being like, "Hello, hello," like a fishing boat.
Passed
Like
away-
they have his head.
passed away, but he has no body.
He's Wilson.
Yeah.
He gets washed up on
the Castaway
Sure.
sequel where
and it's
Will-
Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
His body, yeah, he doesn't need to breathe.
That's
Oh
incredible.
my god.
Um.
Or it's Michael J. Fox.
So the thing
Too
that
many
I,
jokes.
the thing that I didn't understand here is why the Vegas crew, that's what I call them throughout the movie, they just end up on a cliffside with a whole bunch of random animals.
It's the best part. This is the best part of the movie, in my opinion.
Can you explain that to me? Because I don't.
She wanted to go to Toledo because she wanted to go somewhere that she was isolated, where she could restart humanity.
Oh, okay.
So that's where her destination was. It was like, we'll live out here, and the aliens will come down, and they won't even know we're there. We'll just like make our own fucking stuff. We'll make alcohol and water and alcohol, and we'll grow our own food and alcohol, and then we can make our own clothes and jewelry and alcohol, and like that's what she wanted to go somewhere that was isolated or whatever. I said alcohol that many times because she clearly is drunk when she said it, and she loves alcohol. But the best part about this is that Tom Jones comes out, and like, yeah, one bird goes to her, but all the animals just start going to Tom Jones, and he's like, oh, and then it cuts to that sequence of, you know, like Lukas Haas and Natalie Portman, and like it gives you like the Pam Grier, Jim Brown ending. It gives you all that shit. But it really, really should have started, like, all that stuff should have happened before, and then it should have ended with them coming out of the cave. And it would have been great if Danny DeVito was still alive for this moment. But like, if they came out, and it should have just been all the animals going to Tom Jones, and then him singing like dun 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 dun, dun, and like,
Or
end,
Danny
like that's
DeVito
where the movie should have ended.
comes out of
for
the
sure.
cave and goes, so anyway, I started blasting, and he starts blasting. I thought it was great. We didn't talk about this nothing character, but the other lady is dressed as Cleopatra.
Yeah,
I thought
she was
that
funny though.
I thought she put in some good work during this film.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say about that. The next part is the remaining people are at Capitol Hill. The mariachi band playing the Star Spangled Banner actually got a chuckle out of me. That's the last band on Earth, is this mariachi band. I thought it was a funny little...
That was also another thing where, like, I think it would have been visually more funny if all of them were like horribly injured, right? Because like there was two of them that one of them had a cast and one of them had like a weird face brace. Like imagine every single one of them was like, ugh, like they were all just like in pain. That would have been funnier.
Been good, yeah. Grandma gets the Medal of Honor. So does Richard, and then I guess Taffy's now the president. Natalie Portman's character.
That's how it works. If your dad dies, you're president now.
Why do they kiss at the end though?
That even when I was a kid was like, they're
like, I watch it. I'm going back. I'm like, were they together in the movie? But I think that's the first time they're even on camera together.
Yeah,
she's just impressed,
and she just kisses him on the cheek. Luckily, in my head, I remembered them.
Also, like they don't make out.
No,
it's just like a flirtatious kiss, and then
but that's another.
She says like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" And he's like, "No," because they're both kids. They're both like little kids, basically.
I think that he's significantly older than her, but maybe not. I don't know. In my head, as a kid, I thought I remembered that part being them kissing.
This is a real Oingo Boingo thought. You need to reel it in here, Jason.
No, my point is I thought that they had a romance throughout the movie, and I thought that they were similar in age.
You're thinking of Independence Day, a different movie.
Right. I think I haven't seen Independence Day in just as long as Mars Attacks, and I think those two movies have like melded in my head. I owned both of these on VHS, I believe. I know I owned Independence Day, maybe not Mars Attacks. Anyway, I digress. They rebuild the world, and also, how many people fucking died in this thing? It seems like this is all the people that are left.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they don't really show like a crowd of people outside of, because it's the Congress building. I think they're in front of, right?
Yeah. Parliament.
But it's, you don't get the answer. You don't really need the answer, because like the ending grasp of the movie is when Tom Jones does have the deer show up and the hawk land on his arm, and he's like, he's about to sing, but you also know the animal handlers are like, don't sing. They will attack you if you sing. So he's like, dun, 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 dun. Yeah.
And that is the film Mars Attacks. Now, before we get into our final thoughts, I have invented a game. And Jacob, do you know what the MPAA certificate is?
Vaguely.
Basically, it's the number assigned to a movie when they rate it PG or PG-13. Right. We used to just say the number, and I was going to cut that segment because it was a segment that was brought on by an old co-host, and it didn't make a whole lot of sense contextually. But I realized, what if we turned this into a game? So in the 1920s, is when it starts at 0. Can you guess in 3 guesses, without going over, what the MPAA certificate number is?
It starts in the 20s? I don't think that's true.
The 30s. Anyway.
I don't even know if that's true either.
Anyway, I was looking at it earlier. I can easily figure it out. But Steve, why don't you go first to just kind of show Jacob what I mean? Start in the 30s. Started in 1934.
Okay.
This is going so good, guys.
Quick.
28, 5.
No, Jacob. It's 5 digits.
72869.
No, it's way too high. 50K is the last.
38971.
Closer, but no.
38572.
No, you're both way over. You each get one more guess.
Or 2069.
No.
Okay, 2222.
No. Good guesses, guys. But the MPAA certificate number for this movie is 35003.
Ah, so close.
The MPAA, everyone. The MPAA. Wow.
The only reason I'm trying to hold on to this is because Steve made the second best. Now that we have the let's shoot this shit, that's the second best. I love that clip so much, and we're gonna play this dumb game forever.
Wow.
That was a really fun segment. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. It's kind of the most anticlimactic thing ever.
That's also the first time we've done that. So
Nice.
Second time, but yeah. With that, let's go into our final thoughts. Why don't we do it about it?
It's time for our final thoughts.
And I've made it a tradition around these parts. I fucking realized I stole that from Hot Ones, eh? It's like we've made it a tradition around these parts.
You steal things all the time. You don't even know it.
Okay, I have made it a tradition to let the guest go first. Jacob, why don't you hit us with your final thoughts? And on top of that, if you have a rating, please give us your rating for this film.
Like I said, I hadn't seen this movie in like 20 years. We mentioned it was going to be, the invasion, and I picked this one thinking, fuck yeah, I want to watch that again. I remember loving it, but just hadn't seen it. There's so many movies like that. And I'm probably going to watch it again with my kids. I loved it.
Awesome.
I like Tim Burton's old stuff, not to sound like a hipster, but not a fan of anything he's done lately for the most part. But he had that good run in the late 80s, 90s that, just churned out classic after classic. And this one is up there for him. And I give it several acts. That's all. Many acts. And I just want to thank my grandma for always being so good to me and for helping save the world and everything.
Yeah.
Another one of my favorite quotes.
Every time you go up to her, be like, Grandma, I'm Richie. And she's like, yeah, I know, Muffy.
Thomas.
The mediocre gamer in the chat says that I don't steal, I liberate. So
whoa. Well, he said you don't steal, you liberate. So I don't know if he was saying he does it.
No,
I think he
he's
was maybe
referring-
talking to
he's
us.
referring
Yeah.
to me,
Oh, to you.
from my
Okay.
Pull it from
thievery.
him.
Right. You goddamn liberator.
I'm like, God, I'm gonna own the libs by being.
I'm the liberator, and you better get out of my way.
Well, Jacob, thank you so much.
God, he's here. The Undertaker. He's back.
Steve, why don't you hit us with your final thoughts?
I am and have always been like a huge fan of Tim Burton.
Tim Borden.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons.
Hey, do you have any Burton license plates here? No, but we have lots of Borton license plates. Did you call my name? No, my husband is also named Borton. I have liked Tim Burton since I was a kid, but I didn't know it until I was like a kid that understood the difference between a director and just movies that are constantly being made. I didn't really fully understand that movies got made by people that had direction and understanding and drive and idea. And this is one of the first ones that really kind of made it clear to me, where I remember like questioning myself, being like, why did I like that, and why do so many people that I know not like it as a kid? And then I kind of I asked my parents, and like, well, the guy who made that likes all this other crazy shit that you like that we think that you're weird about. It's like, oh yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense, Mom and Dad. So when I first saw this movie, I thought it was the best thing I'd ever seen. And I've watched it a couple of times in between then and now. And every time that I've watched it, I've always chuckled. There's a couple of jokes in it now that you're like, ugh, not great, but also kind of like, not terrible, but clearly they didn't put a lot of thought into it. It was just more for like that one joke where it's like, do the Martians have two sexes like we do? Like, where you're like, okay, that is probably a funny joke at the time, but now you're
extremely
like,
antiquated now. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also not a bad joke. Like, it is a kind of a funny joke where like the idea is that like a person is asking if the Martians have two sexes, and then the person asking the question is someone where you're like, I Yeah, I guess so. And like that's the joke, is that like you can't understand what the sex is. And like that might be smarter than we think, or it might be just as dumb as we think. So I think that if you liked it when you were young and you continue to like it throughout your life, you'll probably still like it. If you've never seen it before, you probably will just not really get it unless you are really weirdly into 1950s B movies and Tim Burton in general. You know, like if you're like a Gen Z person who's like, I've never seen any of this shit, you're gonna be like, what is this movie? And why is the animation so bad? And why are the aliens so annoying? But you know, like when we watch Gen Z videos making fun of millennials, what I hear is I'm like, look at this, look at these guys making fun of us. So what I give it is one of these aliens wandering around, and they go into their purse that's shaped like a gun for a gun, but there's no gun in there, and they pull out a piece of gum and they put it in because they're about to suffocate without their nitrogen gum, and then they put it in. It's a regular old piece of juicy fruit.
Okay, that's a great rating. Thank you, Steve. You get a fact, and you get this one.
Oh God!
I'm starting something.
Undertaker is here. The smaller Undertaker is here.
Smaller Taker. I'm starting something new. Spoiler alert, Steve, you're gonna get the Taco Bell dog every week. I think it's overall pretty fun movie that holds up. Best parts of the movie are seeing who will pop up next, and also the mayhem was a joy. Some of the CGI is real bad since it's from '96, but most of it isn't too bad and kind of fits with the vibe of the movie. The story takes a bit to get going, but it's pretty fun and simple. The score is good and has some good tracks. Danny Elfman, it is Danny Elfman, but it doesn't sound like your typical Danny Elfman. I don't know why they kept starting the country song over, which I mentioned. I guess for the awoo, but that kills the aliens. I don't know what I meant by that. 3.2 out of 5. I'd recommend this movie to anybody, really. It's kind of a family movie that has like a body horror thing, but it's not too off-putting. It's weird and cartoony and fun. And Jacob, I said I give this movie ack, which is exactly what you also.
I'm gonna change my rating.
Okay.
2 towers out of 2.
Act.
I'm gonna give this movie it's not unusual to see when I'm in love with you. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
And I
whoa,
give myself. So this has been another episode of Hey, Did You See This One? Jacob, do you have anything you want to plug? Let you do a plug.
Please don't contact me for any reason ever.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, you should have used that one the whole time. It looks like you're in the glass dome.
I was saving it for the end.
I think he started out with it on also. So just leaving here, I'm gonna play Steve's ad one more time, and then I'm gonna play the outro music. So Jacob, thank you again for being on. Jacob Hiltz, everybody. Jacob Hiltz, everybody. Jacob Hiltz, everybody. And
Is that it? Are we out of here?
I'm playing the song.
Oh, it's a good tongue.
Can you not hear that?
No, I can hear it. Gonna go ball over.
I have to do this because Steve's gonna hate me for it, but
Recording in progress.
Oh my God.
Recording stopped.
don't worry, it goes on on Twitch, so it's not lost to the sands of time.
That's okay. Well, thank you both. Thanks again for playing that, Jason. I love it. I love that you're playing it.
No problem. It's gonna live on the internet forever because it's part of the actual show for the last like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I'll be able to look on to this several decades from now when we're attacking Mars, and we come down, and when we do get to Mars, you know what I'm gonna do when I get there? The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kick open the first Martian door I see, and I'm gonna go.
see what they say.